She has pioneered practical community approaches to sustainable water use. So I would like to welcome Dr. Bhakti Devi to facilitate this masterclass, and I hope you all have a great learning. Thank you.
Thank you, Jenny. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Good morning, and I will like to, just a minute, please. So yeah, I welcome all of you, and it's truly a privilege to welcome all of you. And of course, we are waiting for some more to join, but because it's a recorded session, I think we'll proceed. So I welcome all of you. There are mayors in the participants, commissioners, practitioners, and our partners to this very important masterclass. And I want to especially thank each of you taking the time to be here, because the role you play in shaping your city is both urgent and powerful. And this is not just another masterclass, but it's an invitation to reimagine your city's relationship with water, nature, and people. And before I do a bit of an opening, I would like to introduce and let you know that this masterclass is happening because of three organizations we have really collaborating and partnering together to do this. And I would like to introduce each of these organizations to you before we begin. So please give me a moment. I just want to share the screen so you can see. So of course, because Jal Smruti, we are kind of leading this masterclass, or as I said, but not without very strong support and collaboration of SPG, School of Policy and Governance, and UAC, which is United Association for Cities. And introducing Jal Smruti, Jal Smruti is a non-profit organization committed to enabling water secure and climate resilient cities and communities. Jal Smruti seeks to support local governments and citizens in strategic water planning through integrated water cycle management, policy advocacy, and capacity building. And the foundation is empowering decision makers with tools, data, and knowledge to drive systemic change in urban and rural water governance. That's Jal Smruti. And School of Policy and Governance is an interdisciplinary platform focused on enhancing public leadership and democratic governance in India through executive education, research, and dialogues. SPG equips elected representatives, bureaucrats, and civic leaders with the knowledge and skills to navigate complex policy challenges and serve their constituencies effectively. So that's SPG. And United Association for Cities, UAC, is a coalition of practitioners, researchers, and institutions working to strengthen the role of local governments in inclusive and sustainable urban development. UAC is fostering co-creation of knowledge and policy solutions that enable Indian cities to be more accountable, more resilient, and equitable. So with that introduction, I would now like to give you a bit of an introduction and the thought process that, which has led us to create and curate this masterclass. So as I said, before we go deeper into it, I would like to, begin with a story, actually two stories about the same city with two very different futures. So the story goes like this, the first part of the story. Once in a growing city, not far from where you may be, there was a lake that had been the heart of the community for generations. Children learned to swim in its waters, elders gathered by its edge, festivals brought the whole town together around it. It wasn't just water, it was memory, connection, and identity. And as the city grew, of course, engineers and planners were invited and tasked with building roads and laying water supply pipes. and the lake quietly, silently got buried under the layers of concrete, erased by a series of DPRs that are written for roads and water infrastructure. Of course, no one did it with bad intentions. The lake just didn't fit into the DPR. Today, the population of the city has tripled. The city floods every monsoon. The pipes that supply water only supply twice a week, and not even a plaque marks where the lake once was. No one remembers the lake, except an old woman who still points to an empty plot and says, "That's where the lake used to sing." You see, saving the lake was never in the DPR, but the lake was the soul of the city. Now, I want to switch to the second part of the story with a different ending or a different approach. So, in this version of the story, when the city began to grow, the mayor of the city did something different. The mayor paused. Instead of approving the usual DPRs, the mayor brought together people, citizens, engineers, planners, water experts. And together they created a shared water vision for the city. And a water master plan was born. One that protected the lake, not as an obstacle to development, but as a centerpiece of resilience. Engineers designed water systems that worked with the lake, capturing rainwater to store and use the water during dry months. Land was earmarked for green corridors and parks. Even the smallest unbuildable plots were turned into pocket parks. Today, the city has grown just as much, but the lake still sparkles. The pipes run all year round. The parks are alive with people. And the city is known across the country as one of the most livable, green, and water secure cities. Not because they had more money, but because they had a mayor who chose to lead with vision and not just with DPRs. So these are not just two stories. They are actually two possible futures for your city, your citizens, and your leadership legacy. So this masterclass is here to help you shape that second story by giving you the inspiration, the tools, and examples to lead a city that is livable, green, and water secure. And we begin today with that possibility in mind. So with that, I welcome you all again, and I would like to hand over to my co-facilitator, Amanjot Kaur, who is the founder of UAC, to introduce the first session. Thank you. Over to you, Aman.
Thank you so much, Bhakti ji. And I would really like to thank everyone, the participants especially, for taking a crucial time for this session. We all are very passionate about this topic. That's why we collaborated here for this topic, and we really think that this will take us to a very good, create a very good opportunity for us to collaborate more. So, starting with the session one, we have our speaker, Mr. Rajiv Ranjan Mishra, and he's the former Director General of the National Mission for Clean Ganga. He played a key role in launching the Rival City Alliance, and which brought together city commissioners and city officials across from India to share knowledge and learn from each other. His work laid a strong foundation for river-focused urban planning in India, and also he is a very good author for reimagining and rejuvenating and reconnecting with Ganga. And you can also see his LinkedIn profile when we will share that profile with you all. And he's quite active. He will start with the water crisis in Indian cities, and he will share the challenges and opportunities and his learning from his experience. So, Rajiv sir, over to you.
Thank you so much. it's really very happy occasion to see people with the interest and passion in saving water bodies and improving water management uh, together. I have a brief presentation, so I will try to share it. And mm, is it visible?
Yes, sir, it is visible.
Okay, okay, right. Thank you. So what I'm going to do, couple of slides I will move very fast and then try to share some experience in last 4 5 slides and spend little longer there. For this kind of audience, we don't have to really overemphasize the importance of fresh water and how limited it is in the whole world. So I will just have a look at these news items. I think we are all too familiar about water crisis in cities, and often we see this. Often we see the news. I mean, these are all showing the crisis. I mean, shortage of water. But primarily, we also have lots of news of urban flooding. With one big rain, the city comes to standstill with traffic jam, and then water not going out. So several, basically, either we have too little water, or sometimes we have too much of water. And certainly the too dirty part is common in most of the cities because water is dirty, the water bodies have got polluted. So I think that that's the kind of very obvious challenge the cities face. Similarly, I think this also basically trying to tell you that we have been losing that per capita water availability. So scarcity has been increasing, and then if you see the map, the no stress area is very limited in the country. So some sort of water stress has started seeping in the country, and it is very important for us to be a little wise in managing our water resources. Again, these are the challenges which are very obvious. All of us know it. Groundwater blocks we have overexploited. In fact, India is a country which has maximum groundwater use in the world. I think USA and China put together uses lesser groundwater than India. So I think you can understand the kind of situation. When you come of the sewage treatment capacity, again, I mean, in spite of lot of efforts in last 10 years, still be at the level of 40% treatment capacity. Let's not get into the detail of the quality of the treatment and whether they are compliant to the standard, because there are several things. If you see several polluted river stretches, I think many of them are because of the urban part of the river. So you have several of these challenges. Governance issues, I think I will come back to them again later. So here I am not spending much time. And then I think we are all the climate. What happened? Is there any problem? Okay, I will continue. So I think climate change impact is very clearly visible now. So different types of impacts are there. But last couple of years, water is coming in the narrative of climate change. Still, it should be actually more prominent in that story, and then perhaps we need to work for that, so that it's not only the climate action is limited to the energy and net zero, but it's also water which can play a very important role in all aspects of climate action. So that's again something. These are some of the challenges. I will come to the real challenges, but very quickly I will also tell you, I mean, things are not all that bleak. There are lots of uh, opportunities as well. Uh, we are all aware about these missions, very iconic missions, whether you call of Amrut 1.0 and 2.0 or Jal Shakti Abhiyan. I think government has started lots of missions, lots of very focused attention, and then the kind of budget allocation has been really unprecedented. I mean, I am aware of some of these missions, and I was associated with many of them. I think many of these missions, the budgeting annual budget has gone almost by 5 to 10 times also in several places. So water certainly is getting attention. Water certainly is getting money, but we will come back to that, what happens. So now Amrut 2.0 has started becoming little larger in its vision and talking about water secure cities. So I think there are several things which are written there. I will like to tell Jal Shakti Abhiyan is not a program where actually government gives a lot of money and in the scheme, but it's a kind of campaign mode. It's basically bringing people together uh, for water conservation and rainwater harvesting and several other activities. So I think that is something which is very, very important. I am not writing here. Swachh Bharat Mission also played a major role. Water and sanitation are linked. So SBM, Swachh Bharat Mission, Clean India Mission actually played a major role, and it's second version of that program. It's also talking about used water management. So I think even sewage treatment plant is part of now Swachh Bharat Mission 2.0 for the cities which are smaller, less than 100,000 population. Uh, then there is an attention on the water use efficiency. There is attention on conserving water bodies, and districts have been given target of 75 water bodies to be rejuvenated. I was directly associated with Namami Gange program, so I think this is a program at various level. It has actually tried to draw a kind of policy for river rejuvenation and also a framework with multi-level planning, basin level planning, geographical boundary like district level planning for rivers, and also the urban level planning, which we call urban river management plan. So this is something which is important. And now, again, coming to the continuing the opportunity, this urban river management plan, actually this emerged out of the need of looking at the challenges. We keep on constructing STPs, but city keeps on developing and the new area comes without any kind of provision for pollution abatement. So when we have no plan to integrate about protecting the ecosystem of the city, so water ecosystem. So we try to bring, I think time is not there to go into detail of that, but basically it's actually a kind of shift. Bhakti Devi ji very rightly talked about some DPR. So it's trying to shift. Before you make DPR, do you have a kind of holistic plan for the city with water as a key element? So can we plan together city development and water development, river development? And it gives a kind of template where actually city managers can be used, can be helped to develop that kind of plan, and to have a kind of exchange. We also created a river city alliance. Several initiatives are happening in water sensitive urban design. I think in this master class also we have a session on this. Several cities actually we find, I mean, these are all silver linings. Several cities are taking up steps for rejuvenating their water bodies, protecting removal of encroachment. Actually has I mean, is much more hard than it was previously. Reuse has started taking place. So I think this is not the time to go into these things, but what I am trying to say that the government supported programs, allocation of funds, some improvement in governance, and also several initiatives are happening which are actually kind of opportunities for us to change the situation. But I mean, coming to the real issues, I mean, where have we lacked something? So I will like to highlight, because I had a chance to be in this sector from the water point of view, also from the urban development point of view, both ministries I have worked. See, always when we start giving these kind of missions, so cities start making their plan of action for that mission. So Amrut mission for water supply and for sewerage treatment plant. So all the time we are looking at how much money is coming to us and plan for that. So automatically we jump into DPR, because government of India or federal government or state governments, they will give money as per that. So there is a natural tendency for us to jump at the DPR. Now we don't know which is the most important activity to be done for which DPRs should be made. So I think all kinds of compromises take place when the DPRs are made. So basically the long-term vision for the city, like I think you gave the two stories. The second story where the city grew while protecting its water body and keeping it as a center of development. I think where these kind of visions are there. Do we have people? Do we have leaders? Do we have officers who are actually getting time or who are having inclination to do that? So I think that's something which is very important, and that's perhaps the real issue. So I think that's something we have to keep it in mind. Maybe we have planned for 5 years. Maybe we have planned for a particular grant. We don't have plan for the city holistically, keep for the sustainable water management. So I think how to do that? People will say we don't have finances, then what is the need of having this plan? But I think if you plan slowly, you may also think of developing some sort of financial solution. Technical expertise is also a challenge. Yes, I agree. I think many of the places we don't have that kind of expertise, but that can be built up if we give the priority to this work. Integrated management of water. Now I am telling you conceptual level. I think there are different types of water. I mean, surface water, groundwater, rainwater. I think different types of water. So conceptual integration of these different types of water, they are all part of the same water cycle. So I think can be conceptually integrate and understand. So that's a kind of real issue. And then even if we understand, the administration is divided in silos. So I think at governance level also we have to do something. This I realized, I mean, the next point is from construction to performance. We are all very comfortable in construction. I think the money has come, we will make a DPR, we'll construct. At that time, either we don't think about performance or we try to pass the buck to someone else, that O&M will be the operation and maintenance will be the responsibility of someone else. Lower down the administrative hierarchy, we pass on and then find fault. So I think that's a kind of major problem. We tried to do something, this paradigm shift in case of Ganga mission, where all the projects we took up, 15-year long-term O&M was part of the project cost. So I think we are actually taking care of engagement for 15 years. So I think this is something very important. Whatever activity we do for the city for water management, we have to think about who will look after the performance. DPRs, I think we talked about that. We are jumping at making DPR too soon because that's our comfort zone. I think so. And we have to learn
Yeah.
quite a lot from the faulty DPR. Yeah,
Actually,
I don't.
Sorry, sir. Please continue.
Okay. So I think then again, we have all the kind of eternal debate about what is the best way to have water treatment plant or STP, whether STPs are needed or STPs are not needed. I think whether FSTP is the right solution or on-site is there or centralized or decentralized. So what I suggest, when you make a holistic plan, you have to look at all the areas. Some places, I think that there will be place for each one of them at a different level. So I think this is also something very important. Another issue is, I think, some very simple solutions which nature was doing it for our city for a very long time. We simply forget it. We do something new. I mean, again, the first story of Dr. Bhakti Devi. So I think we are not allowing nature to help us. So I think there is a lot of discussion about nature-based solutions. So I think this is also a challenge. People don't know how to go about it. What is the SSR? What is the standard schedule of rate for the nature-based solution? How to go about it? So I think that's the challenge when we come to the nature-based solution. First of all, you have to understand. Second thing is some policy has to promote it. Then we also have to have some sort of procurement guideline and benchmark so that actually you can procure these kind of things. And then you need to do some projects to develop some data to learning and then actually increase this kind of thing. So, and another thing is often we pick up some area and then develop one area of the city. So one area you will have all the plants, but some parts of the city, especially the informal settlements, I think the water management will be a real challenge. So are we planning for the city wide? Are our plans inclusive? I think, and what are we doing to see that our investments remain sustainable? So I think this is a simple way of looking at our water system. So you have got these four things, and the rainwater, surface water, groundwater, we understand. Used water is basically treated wastewater, we used to say, but we started calling it used water in our national framework for reuse of treated water, because this is also a source. And then in this diagram, you can see the linkage among the four types of water. So I think when we have to improve and integrate water management, I think the city leaders have to actually start planning for the city, keeping this particular thing in mind, how they are linked. So rainwater, it actually helps to the stormwater capture, groundwater recharge, maintaining environmental flow. So I think several things are there, and then what can be used. So primarily integration has to be across the sources, across users, and across different seasons. use of technology. Now we have got lots of access to technology. Now even AI is there. So I think we can actually improve the data ecosystem. Decentralized system integration of nature-based solution I told earlier. And very important is demand management. Are we conscious of the lowering of the water resources, less availability of the water in future? And then how you actually nudge people for demand management. So one thing is the behavioral change, but also pricing. Some of the policy intervention can also nudge it. Not a very easy thing, especially the political leadership do not get it very easy. So I think if you have to go for any pricing reform, I mean, this has to be communicated well, this has to be understood well, and then some suggestions about what we can do. So we have to reimagine the role of water managers. I think we cannot depend upon stormwater management only by increasing the pipe size and trying to get rid of the water from our city. So it cannot be only engineers. So when you actually plan something, you need engineers, hydrologists, and hydraulics, but you also need some person knowing from the ecology who will actually understand about ecosystem management with buffer. Similarly, you also need an urban designer who can actually integrate biosoils, rain gardens, several other things. So basically, we have to manage water by reimagining the role. So what it leads to, we have to have transdisciplinary approach to actually really do justice in this holistic planning or a long-term planning. So I think you need that. Then urban planning instruments, master plans. Master plans have legal validity, so perhaps master plans are important, and it cannot be only left with the land use planning, which is the traditional concept. So I think you are having climate action plan. You want to have a net zero target for your city. So I think several of these plans can be driven. Is our master plan? I think we tried to work on that also about river sensitive master plan or water sensitive master plan. What can be done? And lots of ideas are coming up about how the master plans can also help in making the cities more water sensitive. Data ecosystem, this is actually need not be explained much. We all need data to plan. So often our planning, even if there is an inclination, we suffer technical problem because data is not there. So I think this is something which is very important. Nature-based solution we already talked about, so that has to be done. Transition from monofunctional to multifunctional infrastructure. I think this is very important because if we have only road construction and the person is thinking about road and doesn't bother about the water body, if it is bifurcated or if it is damaged or the debris is dropped there, then you will have a problem. So I think that this is something which is important, that you have to actually think of your projects, think of your intervention, which can actually help you in several things. If you rejuvenate a water body, it will help you in the groundwater recharge, it will help in flood control, it can be recreation, it can also become a kind of biodiversity habitat. So I think this is something, this approach is perhaps needed to do that. Most important, which is generally neglected, is we impose the decisions from top and then start implementing. Can be in case citizen. Again, I think the second story where the mayor rallied people around water. I think that is something which is very important. So it may not be very easy, because I can tell you with my experience, it is not very easy, and often we fall prey to our comfort zone and ignore them. But it does not survive. The gains do not remain there. Again, I think often we don't have money, or we depend upon the money given by federal government or the state government. I think the next presenter will talk about from Janagra. So I think I was also in the committee developing an urban memoranda for the finance commission. So I think there was a lot of debate about how much money, what are the other sources. Some cities have started using municipal bonds. Some cities have started using value capture finance. I mean, numbers are less. Hybrid annuity mode, which we started in Namami Gange, has now become more or less an accepted way of financing some of the plans and some of the activities. So this is something very important. And then the partnerships are important. I think just now we heard the three agencies in partnership are running this program. So I think that partnership is important. Peer-to-peer learning is very important. And so I think just on the last slide, we have to reimagine not the role of the functionary, which I said, but basically we have to reimagine water and city together jointly. I mean, that common vision, that shared vision is important. So I think that's something very, very much necessary. A strategy should be there, systems thinking should be there. So I think, and this is where we can learn a lot from nature if we have patience, because nature always works in the systems approach, but we disrupt it and then we have lots of problems. From linear management to circular management of water, that diagram is very clear, where we showed 4 types of water sources and how they can interact. So I think we have to increasingly plan in a way that our water management becomes more circular. Local sources of water, I have seen enough example. We kill our own water bodies, we neglect them, ignore them, or belittle them. This too small a pond, what will it do? A well will not do. Earlier, cities like Bangalore used to depend upon these ponds and then the open well, and they were very happy in the olden time with the chain of tanks there. We neglect, and because we have technology and we somehow get some grants, so we try to lift water and bring from far off places. So I think in the long run, we have to have a kind of very clear importance given to rejuvenating our local sources. The source sustainability is very important. Then I think I told it, this whole approach, we have to also think of climate, the impact of climate change, how it will impact, and how we can actually reduce that impact or mitigate that impact. Water, people, we have to bring them at the center of the city development. If we are leading the city, if we are leading the vision for 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, it cannot be achieved unless we save the natural resources and human resources and then make them work with each other to help each other. Collaborative partnerships are absolutely essential, and that's why when we started doing it, the idea came that we are making urban river managed plants, all these things. But how the cities, there has to be some forum. So I think some of the forum, the UAC, United Association, or I mean some of the organizers, you are also doing that job. River City Alliance has been set up. It's becoming bigger now, but I think more and more collaboration will be needed, and we have to have real faith in this kind of collaborative approach. With that only we actually gain a lot. Learning, relearning, and unlearning, I think this is very important. This master class would be an enabler in this direction. Lot of things we have not done right. We have actually looked at individual specific projects, neglecting the holistic vision or nearby projects. So I think we have to come out of that kind of approach. So that has to be unlearned. We have to learn new technology, we have to learn new approach, and we have to become transdisciplinary. And it will not be enough. Again, you have to continuously keep on upgrading and then relearning of what you did. It's not an easy thing. Primarily, it is not easy thing because when we say that a strategic long-term vision and planning, I think we have to we are urging the urban leaders, the mayors, the municipal commissioners, and then the other state level leaders to actually go out of our comfort zone. Initially you will also be pressurized that it's the whole thing is getting delayed, but actually I have seen enough example now in the Namami Gange future thing. We are saying that without urban river management plan, we are understanding the whole thing, just DPR will not be sanctioned. So I think these kind of approach is necessary to actually start thinking. So primarily we have to have a kind of commitment in doing it, because ultimately, especially I am thinking of the mayors, because you are from the city, the many of the officers are transitory, they come for 2 3 years, 4 years, but the long term vision has to be from the political leaders. And then the officers often be think that the political leaders will not give us the vision or will not give us support, and often some of the government policies also try to cut short the role of the political leader and then actually try to get it done through some other new institutions. So I think these are all counterproductive and short run. They may work in the short run for 3 year 4 year of a mission period, but if you think of changing the water scenario in a city, coming out of crisis, changing a kind of paradigm shift from crisis to opportunity, I think there is no other substitute but to have a kind of long-term vision, a kind of respect for each other and collaborative partnerships. And I really wish this master class could be one step, a right step in that direction. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. And thank you for laying the foundation for this masterclass, especially the opportunities and the initiatives related to the water resource in our country. So to have a nature-based solutions, importance of climate based master planning, that what you have talked about, you can't emphasize enough to mindset shift that is needed from the DP up planning to strategic planning. This takes us to a very important next question, that the governance part of it and how this state subject can be part of city water generation planning. So let's hear it from our next speaker, who has a vivid experience in democracy and local governance, Ms. Maansi Verma. She's a founder of Madhyam, a non-profit that promotes civic education and citizen participation. She is also associated with Janagrah, working to strengthen participatory democracy and local governance. Her work helps citizens and city leaders make better decisions together for sustainable development. I'll request everyone to please post their questions. We will going to have after this session a very short and descriptive interactive sessions. We also want to hear it from you. Meanwhile, please write down your questions if you have for the Mr. Mishra, and if you any question regarding if you have for the upcoming session, we will discuss that in the interactive one. So, Miss Maansi Verma, over to you.
Thank you so much, Amanjot. I hope I'm audible.
Yes.
Good morning to everyone. And I would like to begin by thanking Smruti and Dr. Bhakti for involving us in this masterclass. I will be talking about what role can urban local governments play in urban planning generally and water governance and planning specifically. As Amanjot has already introduced me, I am associated with Janagraha. I manage policy engagement work at Janagraha. And I will just start the presentation. Okay. So just very, very brief introduction about Janagraha. We have been working in urban governance reform space for the last 24 years now. And we started by working in the civic participation space in Bangalore. But now our work has been expanded to working with governments across levels. We work with city governments, state governments, as well as the union government, particularly the Union Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs, for whom we have created the cityfinance.in portal, which hosts financial statements, audited accounts from urban local governments, thousands of urban local governments across the country. We have been instrumental in implementing Jawaharlal Nehru Urban Renewal Mission and a lot of other initiatives we have undertaken. We have active MOUs with state governments and some constitutional bodies like the Comptroller and Auditor General of India, Finance Commission of India, etc. Now coming to the 74th Constitution Amendment Act, because that is where the powers of urban local governments to work in the urban governance space flows from. It's important to understand that while the 74th Constitution Amendment Act came into force in 1993, municipal corporations, municipalities, as well as certain parastatal bodies like development authorities, water supply boards, etc., they existed even before the Constitution Amendment came into being. And in fact, the oldest municipal corporation in India, the Madras Corporation, goes all the way back to the 17th century. So it was actually established in 1687 or 1688. So we have had a long history of municipal corporations existing. But what was the actual experience on the ground was that these urban local governments continue to be weak. There was no adequate devolution of powers and functions by the state governments. And so they were not able to perform effectively as vibrant democratic units of self-governments. This was noted as one of the reasons in the Statement of Objects and Reasons of the 74th Constitution Amendment Bill. So this prompted the union government to bring a constitutional amendment to elevate the status of local governments to a constitutional body. So now they were brought at par with the union government, state government, and urban local government. So we usually use the phrase as third tier of government, but it's actually its own sphere of government. And while it may be a third tier of government, it is actually the first mile of government for the citizens, because the urban local government is the closest, and the elected councillors, mayors are the closest to citizens. But when these were established as constitutional bodies, and through Part 9A of the Constitution, which has several articles, one of the articles is Article 243W, which said that state legislatures must make laws. And through these laws, they should endow on the local governments various powers and authority. And a list of those functions that should ideally be devolved to the urban local governments was laid down in the 12th schedule of the Constitution. It lays down 18 functions. However, this was while this while the state. Sorry, somebody trying to say something.
We would like to request to please keep the mic on mute. It's very important not to disturb the speaker. Thank you.
Yes, thanks for that. So while the states were authorized to to devolve and to decentralize, it was done in a way that it became discretionary. So the actual terminology used in Article 243W says that states may, by law, endow the municipalities with such powers and authorities as may be necessary. How this has actually played out on the ground is what we will see in the later slides. But while a lot of these functions which are listed in the 12th schedule and which are also relevant for us today, like urban planning, water supply, sanitation, etc., ideally should be performed by the urban local governments. But as we'll see, state governments continue to exercise a lot of control over these. So, since this was the constitutional framework, the roles and responsibilities of urban local governments in urban planning and specifically water planning would include leading the formulation of a city-level integrated vision, including a vision for water supply and management, initiating master planning. Before me, Mr. Mishra spoke a lot about the importance of master planning. However, our research that has been done by Janagraha actually shows that almost 40% of the capital cities, and we are not talking about the smaller cities, I'm talking about the larger capital cities, actually lack active master plans. So we are not planning as much as we need to. Then there is a need for active involvement and engagement of citizens in proper planning and implementation of urban governance plans. And then finally, there is a need for coordination across departments and stakeholders. So we can actually envision the role of mayors as CEOs of a company, who are supposed to lead the government and cities. But what we actually find on the ground is that they face a lot of challenges. So, a couple of years ago, Janagraha collaborated with the Comptroller and Auditor General of India to undertake the first ever performance audits of the state governments on implementation of 74th Constitution Amendment Act. So we were basically trying to understand the extent to which state governments have implemented in letter and spirit the intent of the 74th Constitution Amendment Act. And the findings are not that exciting, unfortunately. So what we find, first of all, is that while in law, so on paper, we see that 17 out of the 18 functions which are listed in the 12th schedule have been devolved to urban local governments. But a lot of the states distinguish between how many of these functions are obligatory, like mandatorily devolved to urban local governments, and how many are discretionary. So wherever there is discretion, we find that the state governments continue to exert control, and that control is usually exerted through parastatal bodies. So our research also shows that on average 5 out of these 18 functions, which also prominently includes water supply in a lot of cities, it continues to be under the control of parastatal agencies. So we have water boards, Jal Board in Delhi, for instance, and other water supply boards in other parts of the country. So that is how water supply continues to be under the control of the state governments, even though ideally it should have been devolved to the urban local government. So what issues that creates is that urban local governments find it difficult to work with parastatal bodies because they are not accountable to them. The parastatal bodies are not answerable to our elected councillors, elected mayors. They are answerable to the state government. There is no coordination. There is no formal role of urban local governments in decisions that are made by the parastatal bodies. And so what we see is that plans are made without taking into consideration the voices of elected city leaders, and they have limited role in implementation of that plan as well. Mr. Mishra had actually made a very important point about the difference between construction and implementation. So we have sewage treatment plants being constructed, for instance, and then operation and maintenance is handed over to urban local governments. But in our interaction with councillors and mayors, they have actually expressed a lot of difficulty in continuing to run and manage infrastructure projects on which they were not involved in the planning process. So that is actually a very real concern and experience that comes from the ground, from this lack of coordination between parastatal agencies and urban local governments. And this also creates a lot of issues for citizens, because for a citizen, it is the councillor who is the first person that they approach. And our research also shows that this research, which was done in 2018-19, actually shows that 74% and 64% of citizens in 7 cities that we had surveyed, they prefer to reach out to their councillor for any sanitation or water supply related concerns, even though their councillor may not have any power to do anything about that issue. So they might not know who is the authority to reach out to. They might not know who is the official to reach out to within that authority. So they prefer reaching out to their local councillor who is powerless sometimes in these kind of situations. Then wherever these functions have been devolved, so for instance, sanitation is one function that in a lot of the cities has been devolved to urban local governments, but there, as Sir had also mentioned before me, there are a lot of constraints that urban local governments face in terms of not having adequate funds. And our research, this is the research from the CAG audit, it actually shows that urban local governments are able to generate only 32% of funds on their own. And so they are largely dependent on grants from state and central government. So if there is any delay from grant from the urban, from the union and state government, then that can bring functioning of urban local governments to a halt. We have seen situations in Delhi, for instance, where I am coming from. We have seen situations where for months, municipal corporation of Delhi employees have not been paid their salaries because funds have been stopped from the state government or the union government, and then they go on strike, and that actually leads to a lot of concerns on the ground for citizens. And we also find that on average there is a 37% vacancy against sanction posts in urban local governments across the city. So they are lacking in both financial and human resources, and it actually creates a vicious circle. So the state governments cite the inability of urban local governments to raise funds on their own and to have adequate staff as a reason for not devolving functions to them. And since functions are not devolved, urban local governments are not encouraged to sort of invest in increasing their capacities to raise funds and to properly train their staff, etc. So it creates a vicious circle, and there is a need to break this circle. So union and state governments, as Sir had also mentioned before me, a lot of programs have been launched. We have Amrut, we have Swachh Bharat Mission, there is Jal Jeevan Mission, and a lot of other programs that were mentioned by Sir. But interestingly, and I would very quickly like to mention here the findings of the recent Parliamentary Standing Committee report. So Parliamentary Standing Committee report on Housing and Urban Affairs, in its very recent report on demand for grants, so where they were analyzing the budget for Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs, they found that large amounts of funds, almost 20,000 crores of funds with the Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs, including for schemes like Amrut, etc., remained unutilized. And one of the reasons they remained unutilized, as per the ministry, was that there was no sufficient demand from state governments and urban local governments, because they were not prepared to implement these plans within the conditions that have been laid down. Those kind of capacities have not been built on the ground, and so they are not demanding funds. And so while these funds are available, they lie unused. So while the union and state governments continue to play a very important role, because urban local governments need that kind of support from both these forms of government, and so urban local governments and mayors need to work with them in coordination. But actually, our recommendations for all those who are attending this masterclass today is that both councillors, mayors, all the elected representatives must come together to advocate and negotiate with the state governments to ensure that decentralization turns into a reality. It must start with greater devolution of functions, funds, and functionaries. Urban local governments need to be made self-sufficient for them to play the kind of role that is envisaged for them in the constitution. The state government should also be encouraged to rethink their municipal acts and to ensure that even though parastatal bodies may continue to exist, because they may not be, it might be difficult to wish them away now that they have been in existence for decades, but there is a need for parastatal bodies to work with in greater coordination with urban local governments, and they should be made accountable to urban local governments. Union government should set up a council, something on the lines of GST council, which brings together the state governments and the union government on the same table for the purpose of building a consensus to further strengthen the 74th constitution framework. Because while this framework came almost 30 years ago, there is a need to re-envision this framework as well.
Maansi,
And
it's a
it is
minute left only,
so
please.
yeah, this is the last slide. And it is also important to ensure that there is adequate devolution of funds and functions that happen. And for this, something that the Panchayati Raj ministry very occasionally does is to come out with a decentralization index. So the urban ministry, the Union Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs should also come out with an urban decentralization in index, and to link it to devolution of funds from union to state governments to encourage greater devolution. And with this, I would like to end my presentation. There are some annexures that have been here. All the audits that I have mentioned are linked here. And I'm hoping that this presentation will be shared later with the participants. And so you can go through all of this in greater detail. But thank you so much for giving me this opportunity to talk on this important issue. Thank you.
Thank you, Maansi. That was a very detailed as well. You rightly indicated the problem of the performance audits that Janagrav indicated, as well as the issue with the water governance and challenges of devolution, especially, and the implementation of 74th Amendment Act. We have some questions. One question is for Rajiv sir. Miss Akhila has actually pointed out this question. Can Rajiv ji tell us, given all the building blocks, it has to be listed, which are the blocks that are strong and ready to the next level, which are those that lagging behind and require more intense effort and advocacy? Hello. Yeah. So I would request if Rajiv sir can answer. Sir, you are on mute.
Okay, it's a very interesting question. And it's very difficult to give you the list down the building blocks which are strong. But I think I will try to approach. I think we are reasonably, I mean, a strong means where we generally feel the ULBs are comfortable. So one thing is the construction is a stronger builder built. Again, the quality of construction, etc., there. But where we lag is what kind of construction, whether it is taking care of the surrounding, whether it's taking care of the other projects. So it's more or less, we are very strong in individual projects, not so strong when we are thinking of the a kind of holistic things. Again, we are strong with cement concrete. We are absolutely poor with nature-based working. So I think that's the thing. The moment we say you, I mean, example that we have to rejuvenate a water body and then give some money, typically what happens, some of the very peculiar suggestions will come to do a fencing around the water body. I mean, that may be needed for encroachment, but if you go and ask or develop a kind of good promenade or a compound wall and a viewpoint, that may be good from the perhaps maybe the need of the citizens, but what really the water body knows. We are quite weak in understanding that ecological need of a water body. It needs connectivity, not discontinuation with a concrete wall, so that the biodiversity and other things can flow. So I think one of the building block, we have to really sensitize people on the need of the nature and living with nature. We also, another thing is perhaps we are also little weak in being inclusive. So I think the money we are just looking, because I think Manish very rightly told about the financial constraints of ULBs and then parastatals doing the major projects. So this also happens because the parastatals will be given a major projects. Now at one level they don't have that kind of direct stake with the city. They come and construct a big infra projects, and then they really feel it is a kind of burden for them to interact with the citizen, interact with the people, try to get a stakeholder consultation, because their mandate is something else. They have got money from a state government, they have to complete. In the review also, the senior level at the state level, the progress will be reviewed in terms of physical progress, how much completion, and financial, how much expenditure and how much construction, how much concrete you have poured, what is the quantity you have poured. So I think these are some of the issues. So when we think of, then again, we may be okay with a kind of planning for a sector for 5 years. We are again very weak in looking beyond 5 years, looking beyond 10 years, looking beyond the mission period. I think I will tell you very interesting this thing. With Janagra, we are in a committee in Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs. Janagra also come. So I think we were having discussion with the mission directors. So I think if you ask them, they will say this much is sanctioned, this much is this thing. They basically link with the Amrut mission allocation. But you ask them that have you done any analysis that all the cities, how much they really need to take care of the water supply and take care of the sewage wastewater treatment? I mean, that kind of exercise is not done because they are basically thinking about the mission period and mission allocation. So that's not the right thing. If you have to really think of the water crisis in the city, we have to very scientifically assess what exactly is needed, how much is the requirement. You may not have money. You say, I need something like $100 billion. I have got only $10 billion. But okay, everything need not be done today. We will prioritize, we will do 5 years, we will do next 5 years, we will do this, next 5 years, we will do this, and we will have a review. But that process is not there. So I think that's certainly a weak building block. But I think we can keep on talking. You very clearly referred about master plan. I referred because it has legal validity. But master plans, again, to make them inclusive, to make them water sensitive, that's the weaker building block as of now. I hope, I mean, the kind of efforts are going on. I think slowly perhaps we'll improve them, strengthen them. But yes, I think these are the things, the angle of human, the nature and human being, natural capital and human capital, I think they need to be brought at a much higher level in all our activity, in all our building blocks.
Thank you so much, sir. We will, I think Miss Akhila is saying something. Ma'am, you're...
I'm saying a very inspiring and instructive response, sir. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Miss Akhila ji. So I'll switch now and share my screen for interactive session. So we will ask some questions. We want to hear from the participants also. So just give me 1 second. I'll just share my screen. And I request everyone to kindly respond on Mentimeter. It's a Mentimeter session.
You need, yeah.
So I'll just share my presentation. Yeah.
Yeah.
I request everyone to join. So this is you either can go to mentimeter.com and just put these code.
It's menti.com.
In the given area, or you can also scan from your camera. So both the options is there. The QR code is also there on the screen. So it's better way to go to Mentimeter and then put the code in the given area.
Sorry to interrupt, Aman. It is menti.com. Just menti.com and code. That's the easiest way to join. Please use the menti.com and the code. Thank you.
I see few thumbs up. Yes. So I'm taking to the first question. So we know as a organization that where are you all joining from, but we really want your other fellow participants also to know that where you are joining from all. Oh, great. So we have participants also from Australia right now. That's very nice. So from Nagaland also. Great. Mysore. Okay, so we will take you to the next question. What is your vision for your city water future? So when you think about your city water, what is the vision you seek? What is it that come into your mind? Water secure, resilient and sustainable, yes. And clean. Conservation and preservation. That's very important. And Rajiv sir very well indicated about the including the climate resilience master planning, that emphasis especially on the conservation and preservation. Responsible usage of water, both surface and ground. Yes, with adequate approach to, yes. Holistic planning, taking everyone along, especially informal setting. That's very important. Including the most vulnerable among the privileged planning is very important. So I'll wait for another 30 seconds and then we will move to the next question. Okay. So one word that describes your city's water situation right now. So you must, when you experience your water bodies in your city, what is a word that, how that word can describe the current situation? Threatened. Plenty. Oh, that's wonderful. Plenty is a fortunate answer, I think. Water stressed, polluted drains and rivers. Intermittent. Okay, I really want to understand the intermittent context of the water situation, disaster. So, all right. So this is what described the water situation, privileged. Wow. Irregular and inadequate. Okay. So the current situation. Okay. The next question is that what water-related challenges currently hinder your city's water vision? So you must have thought about that your city water should be like this, river should be like this, lakes and ponds should be like this. What is the one or two or any key challenges that you can think about right now? That is the biggest hindrance to achieve that vision. Lack of strong will. True. Lack of community and citizen engagement. That's very important point. Water stress. I think the water stress in the current project or the city programs is what I'm thinking the participants want to indicate here. Flooding, encroachment of natural resource, planning and community involvement, proper planning and community involvement. Less focus on future sustainability in urban context. Yes, we are more in current usage of the available resources without thinking of what is going to future of the same resource. Lack of long-term vision. Yes, lack of strategic planning. That's true. DPRs. Yeah. Lack of DPRs. Is it a challenge? Lack of reservoir. Okay. Okay. So, all right. So, as per if you are a mayor, is that water is a top priority in your manifesto? If you are a city manager or commissioner, is it a part of your annual target? So, we want to know that is it a top priority? Wow. Oh, okay. Somebody has also indicated no. I think we can also, if we have a time, Bhakti ji, I would really suggest that if we can discuss around this, because that's very.
I'm sorry, because the presenters have limited time. So we will see. This is the beginning. This is a beginning of a conversation which will go longer and deeper. So today is just a start. So please have heart. You will be invited to the future conversations. We are going to have more of them more frequently. So Aman, same suggestion to you, because because their time is limited. Presenters don't want to keep them waiting because they have committed a limited time to this. So keeping that in mind only. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
So, okay. So we will now. I'll stop my screen. Thank you for all for responding on Mentimeter. Now I request Bhakti ji to take over and introduce Shree. I think Shree will be one who will be introducing all the respective speakers. So, okay. So,
thank you, Aman. Thank you for taking care of the first session very nicely. I would like to invite Shree, who is again one of our co-facilitators, and she's the director of SPG, School of Policy and Governance. Over to you, Shree.
Thank you so much, Dr. Devi, and it's indeed a privilege to be part of this initiative. So I'll just take a few seconds to introduce SPG. I'm really privileged to be representing SPG today at this masterclass. SPG, as you've all heard before, our mission is to strengthen public leadership in India by equipping policymakers, urban leaders, civic leaders, elected representatives like yourselves with practical knowledge to navigate complex governance challenges. One of the most urgent challenges in many of the challenges that we face, I feel currently in our cities, remains water security and making the city livable amidst rapid urbanization. So that is why I think it was a very thought of decision to partner and collaborate with Jal Smriti Foundation in bringing this initiative to you all. I'm really glad to see many of our Net Zero Fellows and their respective state leaders being part of this currently today attending this masterclass. Thank you for taking time and being here. And just a little bit, this Liveable City Lab is currently focusing on leaders like you to learn, reflect, and form actionable pathways to embed water security into your city's development goals. So without wasting too much time, as we segue into session 2, which brings us inspiring case studies from Indian urban local bodies, I'd like to introduce our esteemed speakers for this session. We have Professor Venkatesh Dutta, an environmental scientist and water policy expert at the Center for Earth and Environment at Babasaheb Bhimrao Ambedkar University. He has advised the government on water and river management issues, is known for making complex topics simple and practical for city level planning. As also the guardian of the Gomti River, he has helped shape public opinion and influence laws and policies related to the environment in India. And the second speaker for today will be Ms. Akhila Sivadas. She leads the Center for Advocacy and Research, has worked closely with communities and governments to make water and sanitation services more inclusive. She focuses on the voices of women and the urban poor, helping cities and critical services in cities to become more inclusive, responsible, and fair. So over to both of you. I'm sure it's going to be an extremely engaging session. Like the first session, we hope you can have some of your questions answered, and we look forward to an engaging dialogue as we start session 2. So over to the esteemed speakers for this session. Thank you.
Thank you so much for this wonderful opportunity to share what we are doing for rejuvenation of water bodies in Uttar Pradesh. So I have a small presentation, so I'm just sharing. So I hope you could see the screen.
Yes, we can. Presentation mode, once you put it, will be good.
Yeah.
Professor Dutta, if I could just request you to be a little louder. I'm not sure if it's a problem with my audio or...
yeah, there might be some problem with my speaker, but is it okay now?
Slightly better.
Yeah. So basically what we are doing here, we are trying to restore the degraded water bodies using nature-based approaches, where we try to revitalize the ecology and also the community, and also try to reform the governance at the both at the policy level and the practice level. So it is like working at many fronts, both science, art, and also the management of rejuvenation. So why are we supposed to restore water bodies? First of all, widespread ecosystem degradation. You know, all these water bodies are polluted. A lot of pressure from peri-urban areas, expansions, urbanizations, land use changes. And also these are basically water sanctuaries. You know, I call them water sanctuaries because they preserve biodiversity, they preserve the natural endowment, the natural capital, and also the natural heritage. And they are important both for the resilience from both floods and droughts, because during floods they act as water sponges and they retain the excess surplus water and also replenish the aquifers, the groundwater, and in a way they contribute towards developing the resiliency of the city against the extreme events. So how do you define a holistic restoration? So far, what we have been doing is just reach scale ad hoc, beautification with a lot of cosmetic approaches. But when you go into detail, you have to integrate ecology, society, hydrology, and the institutions in a very seamless sort of coherent ways. Like you put different blocks on a drawing board and try to put them together into a nice piece. So it is all about integration, integrating various dimensions of restoration. And most important is your science, like what kind of restoration principles you are trying to develop or advance. Are they nature based? Do they involve community? Do they reform the governance? And what is the sustainability beyond project funding? I have seen a lot of restoration projects getting derailed, because once the project is over, they are again back to square one, because the nature takes over and you have not exactly revitalized the processes. You have not integrated the whole the form or the disjointed blocks So basically, long-term sustainability is very important for such restoration projects. So I define different dimensions of restoration. First of all, the habitat revival and biodiversity rejuvenation, and also linking the different components of hydrology, whether it is vertical connectivity or lateral connectivity, or also the connectivity with the groundwater, with the floodplains, with the catchment, with the vegetation, and also the different water bodies, the network of water bodies. Ultimately, you have to work on the catchment, inner catchment, linking various off-stream interventions, off-stream possibilities. And community engagement is very important. You have to put the leaders and activists and also the civil societies on board, and not only the elite, the powerful, but the base of the pyramid. That is very important. In all these successful restoration projects that we are doing, one thing is very common, that we have tried to have those base of the pyramid included right from the planning stage. Third is the technical, the the know-hows, like best practices, what kind of targets you want to achieve. Is it practical to have a fishable water when you have a lot of inputs from different drains? So how do you go from one stage to second stage to third stage? So we start from scratch, and we uh, uh, we have a very moderate target, first to make the water fishable, and then to have biodiversity, native diversity, and then we make swimmable. And then we think of the drinkable water in the long run, that water should be used even for drinking purposes after treatment. We also work on the institutional reform part, because a lot of these restoration activities, they go without any framework, any guideline, any policy. So we are also trying to frame such policies at the level of different institutions. For example, we have drafted the policy for zoning, we have drafted the policy of silt management, we have drafted policies, even the SOPs for rejuvenation for both urban water bodies and rural water bodies. And also, how do you monitor post project? Like once the project is over, what kind of mechanism you have to develop some indicators and do some mid-course correction if it is not going in a desired direction. The coordination with the department is very important. We have seen Manrega, the rural development department, the minor irrigation, the groundwater department, the Panchayati Raj institutions, and also the local municipal corporations. They have to work together. It is a coordinated effort. So we have been successful in making some of the joint committee before restoration, both at the level of commissioner and also at the level of district magistrate. He basically is the chairman, and then we have many nodal officers from each of these departments. These are the basic steps. First of all, we do a very detailed baseline assessment. We also make a water atlas. Suppose we are working at a district level. So first thing is that we do a very detailed survey, sometimes with a drone or satellite, or even simple, the land revenue map, cadastral map, and we develop a detailed water atlas. It could be a river atlas, it could be a pond atlas, or even a entire drainage plan is there in that map. Then we also map these different stakeholders, the industries, the farmers, the fisher folks, the boatman, an entire community is mapped before the restoration. Then we set the goal. Some of the goals may not be fulfilled because we have to be very moderate. For example, if the channel is dry, there is no point in making it perennial, because nature has designed it to be a intermittent channel. Nature has made this channel a dry channel just to take care of the runoff during the monsoon. So why to make it a perennial stream? So we have to also educate people that some of the water bodies are just to store the excess runoff, and during the summer they would be just dry. So just leave it like that, so that natural biodiversity could also flourish together. Then design and planning is very elaborate. We develop a drainage master plan, we develop a restoration plan, we develop a strategy for nature-based solutions, and the different time chart is prepared at the planning stage. Then we go for implementation. Here, funding is a major constraint. So far, we have been successful in working pro bono. For many projects, we had no dedicated fund streams. We just used the existing resources. For example, Manrega labor was there. Then minor irrigation team was there. Then we hired JCB from Nagar Nigam or municipal corporation. So we were able to do a lot of work without actual funding. But now we are also trying to help these districts in developing DPRs, and they submit these DPRs to funding agency, and they do get some funds for more holistic implementations. And finally, monitoring and adaptive management, we have developed for some projects the post-project monitoring protocol and also the indicators which would be assessed beyond the project funding. And we are also trying to link with the climate change, especially the intermittent cycles of the rivers and the ponds, the dry channels and the intermittent channels. These are some of the nature-based solutions.
Sorry to interrupt, Venkatesh. Professor, there's 1 minute warning I'm giving.
Okay.
Just to, that's okay,
Okay,
because
so
other
I'll
speakers have.
quickly wind up. So we basically try to develop constructor wetlands, riparian buffers. We do some channel engineering, reforestations, then some of the catchment scale approaches. So I have some, I'll quickly go through some of the case studies. We started working on the Kukrail River. This is the origin of the river. And we made, this is the, again, the origin, there's a well. So we restored this part. We also developed the channel using the old revenue map. So this is the old picture just 2 years back, 2 years back, 2 years back, and today just last month. So we have restored, this is the previous picture, the same site. We have also relocated these slum dwellers given the Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana. And this is the channel. We increased the channel width. We constructed, we did some channel engineering, and we are also trying to develop the riparian buffers. Now this is the Kalyani River we are trying to work. Community, very important, participatory mapping, knowledge integration, even the maintenance beyond funding, and also wider awareness and educations. So these are some of the institutional frameworks. We are trying to revise some of them. Like we have recently come up with the One District, One River plan with the Office of the Chief Minister. Then convergence. These are some of the challenges. Encroachments is quite widespread. Institutional fragmentation, pollution load is coming up from the smaller drains, and climate variability. And for success, you have to have a multidisciplinary team, long-term funding, and land use clarity is very important, and community ownership. So I'll go to the end. Water is life's matter and matrix, mother and the medium. So I conclude now and hand over to the moderator. Thank you.
So yeah, Akhila, you can take over, hand over, and also please do keep the time in mind, only because as I said, this is the start of the conversation, and the other speakers have restricted time. Thank you.
So thank you, Sri and Dr. Bhakti for introducing and including us. Just to build on what Professor Venkatesh has just presented, and to foreground, Sivadas is an organization that is 25 to 26 years old. And we came at a time when we felt there was a great necessity to, synergize, all the processes on the ground and on top, within the system and within the community. We are, across the country, we are playing that kind of a very strong value add role, where the community is as much invested in improving systems and persuading the systems to be as much invested in empowering the communities. I want to just begin by saying that this entire thing, I want to preface the presentation before I hand over to my colleague, Dr. Rajiv Das, who's a MEL expert in our organization. I want to just preface by saying that, this entire workshop is meant for the audience that is, it is intended for, are really the set of people who are in the last 10 years have dared to sort of, dream or looking at urban sanitation. It never existed as a program or as a, an issue of concern before 2014. And they have played a very big role in actually not only, in bringing the sort of, attention on it, but also programmatically strengthening it. And with that, introduction, in fact, the entire presentation is a celebration or, a recognition of the joint effort of the system and the community. I now pass on to Dr. Rajiv to take forward the next few slides, and then I enter back again to complete the presentation. Over to you, Rajiv.
Thank you, ma'am. Hi, everyone. Good morning. So my camera is not working because of some maybe virus or security issues. So to start with, in continuation of what mentioned by Akhila ma'am, so we think any conversation on inclusive wash or water and sanitation systems must begin with informal settlements. Why? Because almost 30% of the population in India, in urban India, lives in slums, especially in big million cities. So these are not fringe populations. They are at the heart of the urban life, yet left out of formal planning, budgeting, and say grievance systems. So in both Jaipur and Bhubaneswar, we saw this firsthand. And the problem was not just the lack of toilets or water lines. It was deeper. A breakdown in trust, access, and accountability. So let me give an example. Like you can see, 50% of the households had toilet in 2018, but many were unusable, either incomplete or unsafe. So, and dislodging vehicles couldn't even reach most of the narrow lanes in the slums. And the gender gaps were glaring, menstrual hygiene and safety were constant challenges. So even though about 3 lakh people were included in wash systems between 2018 and 22 with strong ULB support, it was not adequate. We found that citywide inclusive planning was still the need of the hour. So, yes. So as we continue engaging, something became clear. Exclusion was not static. It got worse with climate stress. So take the example of 2019 Fani cyclone. It caused massive damage in Odisha, and even SBM constructed toilets and municipal water lines were not spared that time. So flooding, poor drainage, and waterlogging became recurring issues, especially in low-lying settlements. So toilets overflowed, water sources were contaminated, open defecation was again increased significantly during monsoons. So it was not just inconvenient, it was dangerous, because you can see like 77% of the households reported vector or waterborne diseases in the last 1 year. So the health risks were not incidental, they were systemic. And from our biggest takeaways was that time, inclusion cannot survive without climate resilience. And despite all these challenges, significant progress was made by 2024, and it shows the power of program design and also the coordination. So between 2019 and 24, nearly 4 lakh people accessed improved and resilient wash services, not just basic, but safe water rose from merely 62% to 97% in case of water, and for sanitation 50 to 89%, and disease burden dropped from staggering 77% to 27%. And it's important to highlight that almost 2/3 of the beneficiaries were from the most marginalized communities. That shows in the third graph on the right side. And these were not of success. They happened because we moved from fragmented service delivery to planned participatory governance. So the community was not a passive recipient here. Volunteers, community groups, and ward officials, they co-created solutions. They made the system part of the system. So yes, infrastructure helped, but it was the governance reform, that shared responsibility, that made it sustainable. And to make this further, we made sure that our work was aligned with national missions like NUSP, Swachh Bharat Mission, Amrut, and Jal Jeevan Mission. And this gave us legitimacy, and wash services in the informal settlements were officially recognized in the city budgets and planning. So community level platforms like Slum Dwellers Association, sanitation subcommittees, community management committees, supported by water and sanitation volunteers, were integrated into the service delivery, and we saw that real participatory governance take place. Communities, frontline workers, and officials all work together. So our key message here was here is policy support is powerful, but it must be activated by ULB and backed by community-led participatory practices. So to explain this translated into day-to-day governance, I would like to pass it to Akhila ma'am to take you through.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So just to get to now to the concrete house, how do you make change happen? Very clearly, any kind of, public service requires participation, whether it's health, whether it's wash. And the minute you say participation, then you're talking about informed participation. Participation that prioritizes needs, but also prioritizes, or defines responsibilities. And for this kind of participation, you need leadership. And you need leadership at every level. And this is where we really help the urban local bodies. We brought in leadership that was trained and informed. They were trained on everything from data gathering, from monitoring, from educating the community, building consensus on beneficiary selection, addressing long-standing grievances, coordinating with all the stakeholders, trained on all the rules and procedures. And together with the urban local bodies, they made a difference. The urban local bodies provided the technical and administrative support, and the community operating structures helped in all the functions that I just mentioned that they were trained on. If you go to the next slide, the minute you train them and the minute you create that kind of synergy, then you have to get into a very strong actionable mode. And these are the tools and processes that we are talking about. First and foremost, of course, is evidence gathering or data gathering. This can be in the form of baseline as well as in the form of a risk and a vulnerability assessment. Then share it with everyone, all the concerned. Ensure that everybody is in the same tent. You can't reform WASH if you exclude people from that tent. Then prioritize what is short term, what is medium, what is long term. Let everybody be engaged in that prioritizing. Then with full understanding, start facilitating what we call micro-planning. Do household survey, do mapping, understand what the context or what the situation, the local situation is, do a kind of what is called a participatory resource assessment, and then based on that, train the teams on their priorities, on the kind of improvements that they are looking, on the adaptations they are looking. Not every time you have to turn to the government. You can even do adaptations on your own. There are many, many opportunities for that. And then ensure that you enter all of that data into what is called a public dashboard. The public dashboard is not only a dashboard for accountability, it's also a dashboard for introspection, for behavioral change, for bringing about, new kind of, engagement with both environment as well as with the issues that concern them. And this dashboard also helps us in decision making. If things are progressing well, see what is working, build on it. If it is not progressing well, then please consult everyone. Find out how to mitigate the short-term, concerns. And then based on this, take an informed decision making, convert it into proposals, convert it into community ownership, ensure that once things are built, the community, safeguards the assets, takes equal responsibility for maintenance, and ensure that, the program becomes as much theirs as, that of the system or the government. And this is actually, we've just given you a small example about how in a short period of time they built, toilets, raised their toilets, built safe, climate resilient toilets, built climate resilient pipelines, both sort of, tangoed together and made this happen. And the final message, of course, is that, planning is the foundation. Let's ensure that we plan and plan out in the open, plan with people, ensure that the data helps us to connect all the dots, make planning a win-win for all, and ensure that, all of this leads to transformative changes. You don't have to go back. There's no slippage There's no regression, and you're only moving forward. Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Over to you.
Thank you so much, Akhila, and thank you for Professor Venkatesh. We had such an inspiring session because these are examples of what Professor Venkatesh presented about how science-based and inclusive planning can be done at a water body rejuvenation for inclusive wash facilities. So these are already happening in India, but the reason we are not able to replicate them or intensify their propagation is because strategic planning is missing. And that is where we really want to come and give you the confidence that there is a lot of us available here to help you. So with that, I would like to open up the next session. We won't have the interactive session in the interest of time. We will continue the question answer later for this particular session because our speakers have committed to time. So we don't want to make them wait. So I would like to, this next session, as you can see, is the session from Australian presenters, my colleagues and my peers. And I'm very excited to invite, there are two speakers for this particular session, and I'll quickly do the introduction and then hand over to Professor Tony Wong, who is our first speaker. And so Professor Tony Wong is the distinguished professor. He's a pioneer and global expert in water-sensitive urban design. Based in Australia, he has helped many cities around the world plan with nature to manage water better. His ideas help cities become greener, cooler, and more livable for all. And as I want to remind again that all the participants are going to get a slide deck from us, which have all the details about the speakers, the content, all of them will be provided to you. So please rest assured. So if you're missing on anything, you're not missing anything because everything will be provided and we continue the conversation. So that's Professor Tony Wong. And then he will be followed by Dr. Peter Coombes. Dr. Peter Coombes is a professor who specializes in water resources engineering. He's an Australian hydrologist and systems thinker. He uses a big picture approach to understand how water systems work in cities, rural areas, and nature. He also helps turn new ideas into real-world solutions. And you can, there are more things he has been doing, which I will be, when we share his profile, the website details are there, and you will be able to see all the details. So with that very quick introduction, I would like to invite Professor Tony. Professor Tony, are you? Yes, you're here. So please, handing over to you.
Thank you, Bhakti, and good afternoon to all. I am delighted to have this opportunity to present to you some of my reflections and thoughts. I believe I have 10 minutes, so I better get on with it and not spend too much time with pleasantries, I guess. I've been asked to reflect on the whole issue of scaling water-sensitive urban design through strategic planning and effective policy making. And I think the first thing I want to say really is that water-sensitive urban designs are in fact the means that we use to transform cities into water-sensitive cities. A lot of the research and practice that I've been involved in for the last 30 years or so really started with small elements of water-sensitive urban design. And over time, it became really apparent to us that there are many different elements of water-sensitive urban design, from looking at revitalization, rehabilitation of degraded waterways, to how we actually look at the process of urban design to introduce a whole range of different nature-based solutions for cleansing water, for recovering water, at a range of scale, as you can see from this diagram in here, and how spaces can be used for multiple functions, not just for water cleansing, but also used for public amenities and so on. But it became very apparent to us in the mid-2000s that really these are all just means and approaches, that the collection of all of them is really what transforms cities to become water-sensitive cities. And so we actually started to then think about, well, what are some of the policy framing and activities that we really need to bring together to deliver on our water-sensitive cities? And by around 2008, we prepared 3 very simple principles of practice that would drive a development of a water-sensitive city. And I found over the years, same 3 principles can be applied in any settings. The solutions behind those principles might be different, but the 3 principles are equally relevant, whether you're in the developed world or developing world, whether you're in a tropical climate or an arid climate, they actually do apply. And I'll mention and I'll go through some examples of what they are. The 3 principles: cities ought to be designed as if they are a water supply catchment. Cities ought to be designed to provide ecosystem services. And of course, the very key to cities are, of course, the communities, both government practitioners like you and I, and basically the people that live in the cities. And I'll go through them with some examples one at a time. Let's look at cities as water supply catchments. You find, for instance, that what we essentially are saying is that we really need to think about accessing the diversity of water supply for our cities. And that could be anything from introducing water recycling, fit for purpose use of water, stormwater harvesting, groundwater replenishment, and broadly to promote citywide water circular economies. Some of the examples that we've seen in practice, the obvious one would be Singapore, whereby over the last 20 years now, maybe even longer, that Singapore have basically secured their water resilience by looking at multiple sources of water. What Singapore referred to as the 4 national taps. In terms of imported water from Malaysia, that still is a significant water source for Singapore. But in addition to that, trying to build a level of self-reliance in the water in terms of local catchment, stormwater harvesting, desalination of seawater, and of course, recycling of all their wastewater through their new water scheme. So those are the 4 sources of water that gives it the diversity of water supply. And you look at some of the other projects at a smaller scale, not at a whole of city scale, but at a precinct scale. Some of the projects we have in Melbourne, in the redevelopment of Melbourne, we are now designing our buildings differently. We are now looking at how, for instance, sewer mining can actually start to produce water, perhaps not for drinking purposes, but for all other uses. The whole notion of stormwater harvesting and how that is integrated with flood management is also the type of solution that we are now seeing in new precincts in many cities. You also look at some of the other cities in around Australia, like in Adelaide, whereby stormwater is captured and treated by wetlands and then injected into the ground as a means of an aquifer storage recovery scheme. Really very useful when you have cities that have very high seasonality in the climate, really wet months and then really dry months, and the ability to actually start to capture stormwater during those wet months, treat it to a standard that can be stored in underground, which then allows water to be drawn up during the dry months, is another way of looking at how you introduce stormwater as an important resource. In Perth, for instance, they've gone one step further into a groundwater replenishment scheme in terms of how they would use recycled wastewater and how that water is being injected into the ground once it's treated to a certain quality for subsequent use after about 2 years of detention time underground. It's being extracted again for use. This is a picture of a project I was involved in the arid city of Hetian. It's a desert city in Western China, whereby we were able to capture snowmelt during the summer months to actually start to capture snowmelt and treat that with wetlands and then injected it into the ground, such that during the winter months, when there's hardly any rainfall runoff, the community is able to extract that water from the ground as another way of looking at aqua storage and recovery, but now using snow meltwater as a resource. So that's cities as a water supply catchment. The second principle of practice is the cities ought to be providing ecosystem services. That is, that you should be able to introduce into the urban design nature-based solutions for a range of ecosystem services. The introduction of ecological landscapes and corridors. Corridors are really important both for passage of floodwater, for biodiversity in terms of the connectivity of those natural systems, influencing microclimate. Water cleansing is again one of those things whereby you can actually start to introduce into the urban landform nature-based solutions for cleansing stormwater, which can then be managed as a valuable resource. There are issues of waterway rehabilitation, remediation, in terms of actually bringing nature back into our city, and that in itself can have some really good flood mitigation outcomes as well. So some of the examples, again, these are projects that I've been the picture to the middle. That is actually the first bioretention swale built in Australia some 25 years ago. This picture was taken about 3 or 4 years ago, and you can see the maturity of how road could be designed differently, such that all the runoff from the road and adjoining property can be treated with that swale, and that water can then be managed as an important resource. That same concept as on the left of the picture is now being used in almost every redevelopment project. Even though a lot of impervious area, you can actually look at how streetscapes are actually important elements of providing ecosystem services by a city that you would design. A project in China shows all the different elements of this whole ecological landscapes and how cityscapes can actually be used to deliver ecosystem services, both for the built environment as well as for the natural environment. How this provide ecosystem service for the natural environment is, of course, in pollution prevention. Urban development brings with it a lot of urban pollution, and systems like that tend to protect the natural systems by ensuring that there is a level of pollution reduction from the urban development. This is a city of Kunshan that we've been involved together with for nearly 10 years now, and all their road corridors now look like this. These are real pictures; they're not rendered. Where in the one city with their ring road and their freeways, all of those corridors are now used for water retention, for flood management, for water quality improvement, and also to create wildlife corridors within that the road corridor itself. And this is Singapore. As you can see, the conversion of concrete channel into a natural river, and how that has actually brought a lot more amenity and ecological services to the city of Singapore, while maintaining, as you can see from the top right picture, still a level of flood protection that the original concrete channel was providing. And so in the city, you find that typically the city can deliver ecosystem services through a range of different interventions across a range of scale, all the way from individual buildings and allotments to neighborhoods, to precinct, to a catchment, and ultimately to a whole city. And they all come together ultimately to deliver a water-sensitive city. And finally, cities comprising water-sensitive communities really is about how do you bring the human element into delivering the right policy and the right intervention. And that is actually quite often addressed at 3 different levels. At the role of government in all of this is to provide enabling regulation, enabling environment for innovation. But at the same time, the practitioners, you and I, need to have all the right tools and knowledge to innovate. And finally, that the community need to understand their vulnerability, their role in delivering good environmental stewardship, and also as part of the decision making around some of the decisions on water sensitivity. Policies become important. I come back to Singapore about how a water sensitive city is now embedded into their policy, into their engineering, drainage design manual, and so on. And of course, capacity building. associated with that policy are a whole bunch of design guidelines and technical guidelines to ensure that the practitioners have all the right tools to deliver on the innovation. And through that, you find that there's training courses and accreditation courses that Singaporeans have run. So I think I might finish there. I've got one more very quick slide on the emerging role of digital technology in delivering a water-sensitive city, issues of real-time controls for multifunctional infrastructure, whereby you can now have sensors that actually look at how your water supply can be used for different fit-for-purpose roles. In terms of digital technology for flood management, the internets of floods, and the picture to the right, what they do in Malaysia, a road traffic tunnel that is actually doubling up as a flood conveyance when big floods are happening. So I might finish there and basically by mentioning that, in fact, that these three principles of practice do guide a lot of government decisions in terms of policy, guide a lot of capacity building in terms of how you deliver innovation, guide a lot of design and city planning. And ultimately, together, they actually are key underpinning principles to the delivery of water-sensitive cities. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Tony. That's a great way to conclude. And it's a very important principle, which is also telling the urban leaders why we are talking to them, why they can drive the long-term strategy, because cities can become water supply catchments and they can be providing services if we set that vision, if we set that long-term strategy. So I would only request Tony to please stick around because we'll have a Q&A soon after Dr. Coombes' presentation, which will also be 10 minutes. And also, we would really appreciate if we can have the presentation be available to share with the participants. So with that, I would like to invite Dr. Peter Coombes to get to his presentation.
Hello, everyone. It's nice to be here and to be the second Australian on the talk. My brief was mainstreaming rainwater harvesting and demand management in Australian cities through strategic planning. This talk has been borrowed from a talk I gave to our National Parliament late last year of a rainwater harvesting policy. So I'm going to go quickly through it. Firstly, my motivation is a perception as a system scientist, specializing in bottom-up systems and using big data and ground truth. So in the modern era, big data is called AI and all sorts of things. I've got long experience in understanding the contribution of local communities and people and actions to global outcomes. The future of cities is dependent on water cycle services and resources and many other things. Regardless of what we say, we have mature analysis processes, but are continually surprised by droughts, floods, social impacts, economic shocks, and environmental damage. So we have a lot more to do, and it's all about getting the scales right in planning, which I'll talk to. I believe in bottom-up systems approach because we live in a system, not a collection of isolated silos that are joined together by top-down policy. Policy applies at multiple distributed scales within a system, but almost always acts locally. If you don't have any people, you can't enact a policy. So it's very, very important to understand the places to intervene in our systems. And this slide really highlights there are many challenges and there will always be challenges. The local contribution in Australia of rainwater harvesting is about 34% of households. But just focusing on rainwater harvesting is not the right approach because it's a catalyst for integrated water savings and improved stormwater management, improved household welfare, but increases the resilience of the centralized water supply and the cohesion of society. So we're thinking from the bottom up on the community, the people first, actually genuinely, as the diagram shows here, so everything happens at source, is pulling everyone into this conversation rather than talking at people. People and communities are part of the conversation, and our planning must start there. It has by accident in Australia. We couldn't say it's been that well planned. A lot of this I'm talking about is still out of scope and inconvenient. Most measurement, reporting, decision making is from the perspective of utilities for regulatory purposes. How do we include communities and local solutions is part of that process. Whatever we do, we need a whole of society response. Water is a business and power opportunity for somebody at some scale, particularly monopolies. However, contributions from the bottom up from multiple scales increase resilience. The blue writing to the side is the national rainwater and water efficiency benefits to 2050 that we presented to Parliament. So it's got total water savings, but it's got net present value about the national economy. It's reduced greenhouse gas emissions and reduced nutrients in waterways as some key indicators we used. But this is all driven from the bottom up. This graph here is a look at urban water security, demographics and economics in Australia. In the last nearly 30 years, our national water demand has not increased much, urban demand. Our population and number of people connected to urban services and rural services have increased massively. The cost to centralised controls are increased rapidly. Prices paid by people have increased substantially, and our non-farm gross domestic product indicator of our wealth has increased quite dramatically. So we're doing something right from the bottom up. We're saving a lot of water, reducing water use. We're making a strong contribution, which is helping other scales. The mechanism for proper incorporation into Australian policy is not there yet. And a highlight of this is if you compare Melbourne and Sydney, which are these graphs, the pie charts below the utility water balance for each greater city shows that more than 30% of the water market is actually provided from the bottom up, not counted in regulation or formal reporting. It includes rainwater harvesting, water efficiency, grey water, stormwater harvesting, and a range of other things. But it's really not counted yet. So if we're going to plan stuff, we need to actually count it. And Australia has done well, but not as well as we tell people. So following on from Tony's comments about cities as catchments, once we start properly considering scales from the bottom up, we see that, and this graph here is runoff from Warragamba Dam in the Sydney area is strongly impacted by climate change. But when there's no runoff into that dam, because of the significant catchment losses, there is a significant amount of water that is available throughout the city of the Greater Sydney region, because urban catchments are more efficient at generating runoff than natural catchments, also more efficient at generating flooding as well. So we need to consider those things. An important thing in my world is the idea of connectivity and cumulative systems. So the graph on the left side of the screen is showing that, say that we're at location where the demand arrow is somewhere in a system, we're connected to so many other things, even though most of our analysis doesn't count everything as a system. So if we're reducing demand at that location, we're reducing the amount of water taken from streams and desalination plants and pumps and all sorts of infrastructure. We're also, depending on which demand we're reducing impacts and how we're reducing that demand, reducing impacts on the stormwater systems and urban waterways, reducing the amount of water leaking into sewer and stormwater systems. We're actually exponentially reducing waste, which is a bottom-up perspective. But everything accumulates from the local to the regional. So if we're only discussing risks and benefits at the regional top-down scale, we're not understanding the mechanisms that can incrementally change the problems and risks that we're dealing with in a far greater extent that we know. So managing risk and understanding and incorporating people and communities from the bottom up is producing, in the right-hand figure, the blue-shaped hydrographs from, say, a stormwater catchment or even a wastewater catchment. Whereas if we're not thinking that way and we're thinking from the top down, we're getting the red-shaped responses. They are very different and drive very, very different national and local policy responses. Also, I will talk about, whenever you hear me talk, scale and spatial effects. So on the left-hand side is the spatial effects on the entire water cycle on the Greater Sydney system. On the right-hand side is the Greater Melbourne system. Dark brown is a very high cost for Sydney, around the $25 a kilolitre, and the green in very dark green in both around the $2 or $4 a kilolitre. So the costs vary everywhere, and you don't understand them unless you're asking questions at the local scale. Australia hasn't had an epidemic from rainwater harvesting or local water sources in the way that it's talked about in the national media. Most of our problems with cross connection and backflow and so on come from utility systems or firefighting and pest control activities. So we're on pretty solid ground there. The illusion of averages is something that gets me out of bed every day. The red on the graph there shows an average analysis of water efficiency, say rainwater harvesting, saving water, so on. That's a top-down analysis versus not having it. And the red on the graph there shows you can't tell the difference between the two because the assumptions, top-down assumptions made in the models. The blue analysis is bottom-up, realizing everything happens from the local scale and framing your assessment of whether or not your city is water sensitive and so on from the bottom up, not the top down. See, there's a very noticeable difference, the dotted blue line, in change of, this is flow across the entire city of Melbourne from one side to the other, from being water efficient at the local scale versus not being water efficient. You can actually sell the difference there. So we can't be doing things on average. There's no such thing as an average person, an average community. Our policies have got to incorporate the local detail. The only thing I want to share from this slide is that local effects create global outcomes. So household water savings has driven down water utility tariffs, which decreases household expenses for all Sydney people, especially low-income houses. So again, we can't generalize, and we have to have solid bottom-up policy processes to understand what we're attempting to do. This is my own house. The graphs show change from mains water supply to a house that has water efficiency, rainwater harvesting, and solar energy. up to 2017, and after 2017, it also includes a solar battery as well. So my own house sources rainwater and solar energy first and is backed up by the grid. So it actually doesn't have a peak impact on water and energy grids that we're reliant on also. And finally, the last slide, local scale interventions are a key to building resilient communities to manage population growth and climate change and aging infrastructure. Integration of rainwater harvesting and water conservation in urban area improves the performance of centralised utilities, infrastructure, the welfare and equity of society, the health of waterways, minor flooding. We need targets. I'm talking about bottom up, but we need policy targets from the top down to incentivize and recognize that our local communities and local people are a very important part of the delivery of the policy matrix. And a lady named Michelle Avis and I do learning circles all over the world, including some Indian people, and we've got some free online materials here that talk about some of these lessons. And that's me. Thank you.
Thank you, Peter. That was very informative, insightful, because as I said, for India, we definitely need a lot of mainstreaming and intense propagation of while Tony covered, how water, the high level principle about water cities as water supply catchments, what you showed, what your presentation showed is how it can be done at a proper engaging at the bottom up level, which is really, really important, and especially India has a great potential for it, and that's why we are seeking engagement and with city leaders, because they do have the autonomy to initiate those conversations. And I must say, for everyone to know that myself, my own practice, what I did in Sydney, Australia, was inspired by both the gentlemen with Peter Coombes' whole idea of decentralized bottom-up is what kind of inspired me to take that role and turn it into something like a decentralized water master plan by a city, even though we have Sydney Water as our water service provider, and using Tony's idea of water sensitive urban design. I was able to inspired by both your you have always been champions of it, and that allowed me to get that confidence that we can do it once. And of course, to mention the City of Sydney's mayor was the one who took the lead and got me the opportunity to do it. So since then, I've been on this dream and fantasy that we should make this happen in India. Because mayors have the power that, it's you just have to claim your power, and we will show you how to do it. That's our basic call. So with that, I would like to, see if there are any questions. If there are not, I would like to take the opportunity to ask both of them one question each. So I might start with Peter, because Peter, you kind of have just finished. So I would like to just, and keeping your time in the interest of time, you can keep it as short as you can. My question is, in the context of India, given that it's everywhere, as you said, even Australia is finding it challenging. It's not that everyone has solved it about ground up, bottom up, incorporating bottom up thinking into the planning. So what are the key things any tips from you that we could get started on for the city mayors to, take confidence? What can we do to get started? Just the initial steps. Let's talk initial steps.
So thank you. Listening, good old-fashioned listening is a good start, and listening at the right scale. As we talked about offline, I worked in Delhi years ago, and you'd be surprised what you don't know if you don't listen. So what I found working in Delhi, there were loads of people in communities who just wanted to help the government and everyone else understand what they were experiencing, and they wanted to hear back acknowledgement of what they were contributing. So I guess that sounds really simple, but that's probably the key message from me.
Thank you so much. And we will definitely, our next session is about showing them how to engage with community, and listening becomes an important part of it. And we want to make sure that, we are doing, even if we do it small step, we do it well, because that sets the, precedence. Thank you. So Tony, to you, I would like to ask similar, given the huge challenges, we have constantly been told this cannot work in India. Mayors will never be able to. I want all mayors and commissioners to know that we have been discouraged, that, don't even think, don't even bother. But no, we have full faith in it. And for Watersense urban design to actually make room in that, strategic planning and that vision, what could you, give the mayors confidence for inspiration?
Well, I can only draw on my personal experience in that some, over 25, 30 years ago, I hear the same comments from our city officials and our government officials that this is just impractical. You're just a bunch of researchers trying to do different things. And I felt, and I have applied it consistently in every city I work in now, is the power of demonstration. And I would encourage cities to have a look at their works program and choose even one to do things differently and learn from that. And this was exactly how we started in Australia, is that we were given a small project to fail if we don't do it right, but at the same time given the small project to demonstrate what could be achieved. And you would know, Bhakti, the Lynbrook project, which is now nearly 30 years old, was what started a lot of the nature-based solutions in streets. And I've used it everywhere. In slum communities, I've just finished projects in Indonesia on how you revitalize slums using nature-based solutions. So in fact, every project always starts with engagement. I think absolutely understanding local context, as Peter has mentioned, but always the notion of doing it locally and understanding how it would be done by locals, driven by those principles that we talk about. I find that always work, and that is the beginning of the capacity building program. But it's actually a building of bringing communities and government together to see what can be achieved. So don't underestimate the power of demonstration. And they often do not require big budgets. They simply require city officials to identify one of their works program to do things differently.
Thank you. That's really very, very inspiring tip, because in fact, this masterclass is also for us one demonstration. First demonstration of how we can bring the mayors in the room and start the conversation and, and again, inspire at least few of them to take the next step and then work on the next step. So, and bring the critical mass, as Peter often says. All we need is keep doing the demonstration until we reach the critical mass and critical number where everyone starts to learn. So with that, on that inspiring note, I thank
there is
both
a question.
Yes, please.
There is a question actually in the chat box.
Please,
by
I
Akhila.
hand over to Amanjot for doing any other questions. Please, thank you, Aman, for reminding, because I have not been watching and looking at it. So please.
Yeah, actually there is one question, and it is the question to Peter. So Miss Akhila has indicated that the bottom-up approach, that she loved it, and but the question is whether it is realizable in a formal or agreed upon manner, giving institutional priorities and culture. Secondly, is there some way and all this complex technical information be simplified for wider learning and sensitization? That's Akhila ji had actually indicated this question. I request the participant, Miss Akhila ji, if you could ask the question also, if you can indicate what exactly you wanted to ask to Mr. Peter as well as Mr. Tony.
You've composed it well enough, Amanjot. Let Dr. Peter respond and then.
Thank you. I think there are two questions. If I remember rightly, the first part of it was, I think you were saying, how do you engage at that level? And it's a sort of magic, because if you're asking questions at that level, which is rarely done, you actually engage the community and you bring their trust and you start building relationships. So the bottom-up process is actually has many hidden components. So by listening and working at that scale, perhaps on a project like Tony recommends, you're actually opening many doors that you need open to change your policy. And that can only happen at the people level. And that's done from the bottom up. It's a hidden benefit of that process. I think I probably haven't answered it entirely, but there's a lot of power in the bottom up approach, because you're actually having the conversations you are not having from the top down. You might be having conversations with key stakeholders, but you're not having conversations with the people you need to bring with you. So from your second question, second part of the question is fantastic, because when you're having those conversations with people, local communities, and hearing their solutions and winning their trust, and what disappears is the overly technical consulting type conversations, and people have relationships not around misunderstanding technology and technical jargon. You actually ground the conversation in accessible language, and very big these days on language. We don't need all that technical language we think we have as professionals to actually deliver really great solutions, whether we call them water sensitive design or whatever we want to call them, because in any solution there are core principles that are actually quite simple, and the most common core principle we need is a common understanding between people who will be experiencing and championing your project, which is the local people. So I actually think local projects are quite easy to deliver once we get out of the top-down approach. So, and I think they are self-fulfilling if you get the parameters right. So not overly technical, open, listening, building trust, and having local people having conversations with professionals, if they must, about what they really mean and what they really need. And I've found it to be successful throughout my 40-year career as well. So I hope I've answered the question. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Aman, are there any other questions? Because if there are none,
No, they're not.
Okay.
There are not any other questions. Yeah.
No problem. So I will again thank you, Tony, and thank you, Peter. And we would like to at some point keep touching base as the community of mayors who are interested in this strategic water planning grows, because that's our plan, to grow this community of leaders who are interested in making this happen in India of strategic planning. So thank you.
Bhakti ji, I'm sorry I'm interrupting you, but
no problem.
Actually I want to understand
Yes.
something. So we understand the challenges from the governance part of it, what is happening in India especially. We have a state governments, and the devolution of the obligatory duties and the discretionary duties are very much grey and white area still after the constitution or what policy says. So what different the Australian cities did so that it was well trickled down till the bottom level? What are the strategies that as an Indian cities practitioner we can take up and scale up to so that we can also create water sensitive cities?
Tony, maybe you can answer.
Look, it's a journey. Like, I mean, I want to flag, for instance, in Delhi, that the Australian government has a current project there to actually encourage the development of water sensitive principles, a project called the IWASI project. And that is a way of disseminating the knowledge, trying to facilitate local demonstration, and get the conversation going. The reality is that in some sense, us that are very passionate about this needs to generate enough buy-in for it to actually be scaled. And the only way to do that is actually through taking small steps, one street at a time, and then to one precinct at a time, but continually forming partnerships with local government to also give the local practitioners the room to experiment and the room to fail, but to make good if they fail, because that's the only way that you can get the Indian version of a water sensitive city. I mean, I think all of you acknowledge that what I'm promoting is not an Australian water sensitive city in India. It is actually promoting the principles that have driven the development of water sensitive city in Australia. It is now driving water sensitive city in Indonesia. I was in Pakistan only 6 months ago to look at their Sawasi project and the slum revitalization using a water sensitive approach, which are all fantastic, and they are all a combination of essential infrastructure, the role of nature-based solutions, the role of urban design and urban planning that actually underpins all of that, and ultimately the role of community co-design at that scale. I mean, we talk about, if you want to start at the grassroots scale, you start with the community co-design process, but the co-design process needs to be guided by the right technical information and the right understanding and principles that drives that. It's not just a co-design of determining what everybody likes. Because I remember when I work in slum communities in Indonesia, when you start the co-design, everybody wants cable TV. Everybody wants internet access in spite of the fact that they have no sanitation services. So the co-design has got to be informed about the community understanding their vulnerability, the community understanding what they can do, and then they having a role in making some key decisions on what the interventions might be. But it's our role as practitioners to make sure that those envelope of solutions are well contained to ensure that we actually deliver some of the technical subtleties that you've heard me talk about, Peter talk about. There are technical subtleties that cannot be ignored, because even in Australia, when that is missed, you find a lot of failure. And often when it fails, the concept gets thrown out with the failure. Yeah. So partnership with local government to make sure that there's room for experimentation and the room for failure is very important to get this off the ground. And don't expect it to happen overnight. Just, I mean, it's only mainstream in some cities after 10, 15 years of engagement.
Thank you so much. I think that's something I have learned, and the very important lesson is your failure is your learning here. Not necessary if you fail, or strategically if you plan something and if it fails, that you are actually learning. And collaborative actions with technical knowledge is important.
Amanjot, may I add a bit here for your question? Yeah, I'm not taking much time, Bhakti. So, and if we see our presentations also clearly depicts the models which we tried and we have succeeded in India also, Amanjot. There are community leaderships which we go back to our presentation, if we see that strengthening the tiers, the fourth tier, maybe in Bhubaneswar, in Jaipur and all. So how the communities capacities are built, not only to ask for the facility, but to have a room in a chair in the room, that we also part of the planning, designing, even the technical aspects, like Akhila ji said, in simple language. How do you understand the localized solutions? How do you ask from the government that what actually needed? What is the actually need of the hour? What is the climate risk existing there? Even in Bhubaneswar, if you talk about the climate resilient toilets, and even Jaipur, if you talk about that water connections, pipelines, these are all actually part of that community involvement with the government bodies in collaboration with the multi-stakeholders convergence. I think all the points which Peter was talking, I mean, Tony was saying, even before Akhilaji was talking,
Yes.
there are existing models which we
Yes.
have, which we succeeded. And I think it's a time for us to go back and see what are the models existing in the Indian context,
Yes.
and how do we actually replicate in other parts of the
Yes.
country. I think that is the need of the hour, which I think
Absolutely.
we
And Ravi, you made a very good point, and that is why we had this presentation to demonstrate there are pockets of excellent work done. But unless you get the city leaders on board in thinking, making a vision and a strategy, you can't, there's no room for opportunity for these things, examples to be replicated.
G,
So that
G.
is why we are working on and showing to our leaders that, look, there are lots of good work already exists. And why I brought the Australian presenters is, in Australia also they had the same struggle.
They have.
It is not that they just
Not.
had everything from, they've struggled and they've arrived at a little, even though they're not achieved, but they're done. And that becomes our inspiration, because both the countries are Commonwealth countries, same level of government, same old British colonies, right? So same thing everyone is fighting, the control of the state and top down versus bottom up, and a nice hybrid of both top down and bottom up is what we really need to make local solutions a mainstream. That's the idea. So it's very encouraging that we have great case studies in India, and we have things to learn from others who have journeyed longer. So that's the idea. Okay. So that's
Thank you.
it. I'm very happy to hear from you, Ravi, because I've been reading your work, but good to hear from you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
Okay. So any other questions, Aman?
I don't see that, but the floor is open. There is a lot of participants. I see if they can.
Okay, we'll just give one more opportunity to ask, because we don't want to keep the our guests waiting also, but at the same time, if there are any questions, I'm sure they'll be happy to take. So
excuse me, Bhakti,
yes.
I have a meeting in
Please,
2 minutes.
2 minutes.
Yes,
I will. Thank you so much. You've stayed over half an hour beyond what you committed, so I appreciate that. And please feel free to drop out whenever 2 minutes are on. Thank you again. Okay.
So if there is no question, then maybe we can take our participants to the interactive session, the Mentimeter.
Yes. So I want to then in that case close the session well. Thank you, Tony. Thank you, Peter. And we will keep you posted on how our journey is going. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Over to you, Aman.
So I'll share my screen, and just give me a second.
Let you know, we have we'll allow some time for summarizing and concluding. So therefore, you can keep our interactive session for about 10 minutes. If that should be okay, right?
Sure.
Yeah. Thank you.
Right. So just 1 second. Okay, so again, the code is same. So if you have joined earlier, so it will take you to the same page. If not, then you can log into menti.com and just add this code.
And just to say, we do not need to log in. That's the beauty. You only need to put the code. That's it. No logging in required. Go to menti.com and put the code number. Thank you.
I see thumbs ups here. I think people are already on board. So I'll move to the first question. Which department or actor you most rely for water decisions? This is in respect to your cities. Okay. The first entry we received is indicating state government, Jal boards, yes, ULBs. I'll wait for 30 seconds more to. So I have received 5 feedbacks till now. So I'll just wait few seconds more to get more responses. Then we will move to the second question. Okay. So next question is, which department currently leads water related planning in your city? So we want to understand that if the water related planning is happening, and which department in your city is leading for that. No clear leads. That's a very important response we received here. State body, water utilities and Jal board. So in some cities, the water or the Jal boards, not necessarily they also the part of the planning, though they are the part of the supplying and they cater the demand part of it. Okay, then we will now move to the next question. And does your city has a water regeneration plan or wetland plan or urban river management plan? So even if you don't know, that's also okay. You can indicate you don't know if there is any kind such plan is there or not. But okay, but most of them is saying yes. So that's a very positive response. And 2 indicated no. So this is an open-end question. We want to know that what kind of solution your cities has tried to or exploring for water resilience. Is it the water harvesting, or they are actually doing a waterfront management, or river management is something going on under the Namami Gange? What is it that is happening in your city? So if there are any specific solutions, so we would like to know that. Rainwater harvesting. Groundwater recharge. I'll wait for more 15 seconds, then we can move to the next question. Community engagement in scaling localized solutions like harvesting and recharging. Yeah. Large earth ponds for collection of rainwater. Shankar Vihar, Kent. Yeah, it's plant. Yeah. Water recharging. All right, now moving to the next question. What makes water governance difficult in your city? So, according to you, what is it that water governance or the water decision making seems difficult in your city? Data gaps and multi-agency involvement. So, good thing is the funding is not the problem. So that I'll take a a positive note here. Okay. So data gaps, multi-agency. Multi-agency involvement tend to have more vote compared to funding and data gaps, but yes. Okay. Moving to the next question. What word best describes your leadership approach to water issue? So in your city, what is your kind leadership? What is your approach to cater these water issues? Visionary, inclusive, yeah. Bold. Bold is very important also for decision making. Collaborative. More for the collaboration. Great. So I'll wait for another 15 seconds and then we will move to the next question. All right. So what next question is, what role do you as a city manager or as a mayor play in shaping water decision? Do you lead and coordinate across the departments? Do you have potential, do you actually influence the state governments and bring them on the board? Do you think that's a limited role, or were you able to provide the visibility to the issue, or you were not involved in the water decisions at all? So good thing what I have noticed in this, that they are more getting into lead and coordinate across departments. The potential of this is very important. We have more people who can actually lead and coordinate across the departments. That's very important. So moving to the next question. What is your top priority for water in current term as a mayor or city manager or commissioner? Is it expanding the accessible potable water to the vulnerable, say the slum dwellers, or the improving the overall quality of water which is supplied, building resilience to floods? That's very important. Strengthening planning and governance, or mobilizing fund and investment? I see more votes getting to strengthening planning and governance. Yeah. I'll wait for another 10 seconds and then we will move to this next question. Okay. So, yeah, Bhakti ji, back to you for the next session.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, Aman. So that was good to, get a little insight into how you are thinking, where you need support, what are your challenges. So that was really good. And what we plan to do is to use your feedback to then inform how we could help next, what we could do next. So with that, I would like to, wanted to share how Jal Smruti is basically, what can you do after this today? So let's say you've heard about these things. We know that we want to listen to the community. We want to engage with the community. That's a good starting point. While we are, building our capacity of our own planners and engineers. But before we build capacity of planners and engineers, it is the city, as city leaders, you need to, sorry, Aman, have you stopped sharing? I think it would be good to stop sharing. Yeah, thank you. So, so the idea is that if we could give you the tools. So we have been developing tools in a way that city leaders can use to engage with the community while when you engage with these tools, I want to share with you what these tools are that we have developed, and we can make use of those tools to start the engagement process in a way that we are getting data, we are helping the community, and we are developing a way forward. So that is what I wanted to share. So I'm going to just let me open share the presentation. Please bear with me. Okay, I think I've got it. So are you able to see?
Yes.
Yeah, thank you. So I wanted to give you just an idea of these tools, and we can always go deeper into it in our future sessions, and we will be also sharing more information about them. So first of all, I just wanted to show you this iceberg, which is a very good symbol of showing that what we see today outside in the city, the problems, the shortage, the piles of garbage, the pollution of the water bodies, that's what you see. That's a tip of the iceberg. And what you don't see, and the reason why this has resulted, is that one of the main thing is no long-term plans. That is what we are trying to address. So lack of long-term planning is one of the main reasons why Indian cities become water-stressed and unlivable. So, and also we are going to share with you the whole link to the various other plans and policies that already exist, which you can tap into as cities. So now I want to share with you these practical tools to engage with the city. So what we call these, there's a suite of tools we have developed called water scorecard tools. And what the scorecard tools is Jalakalan. And where it starts is that if you want to engage, first starting with individual citizen family. So this online tool allows you to engage with them. And once they are engaged with that tool, they are able to gain some insight on how they could save water, for example. Then the tool also, there's a separate tool available at the building facility level. So you can assess using the tool, the building facilities, educate the community, engage with the community, and also learn about what's happening within the facilities within your city. And also for water body, there's a scorecard we have developed. So if you have a water body you want to make a sense of what the problems are and how to go about it, you could use this scorecard tool. And finally, we have the city water scorecard tool. So we can give you, this scorecard can give you a complete picture of what the gaps are. So every tool allows you to inform, as well as show you some actionable insights that you can take real action immediately. So that is the city water scorecard tool is targeted at city officials, and the kind of scenario it works at, a city needs to present its water resilience status. So you first need to know where you are today when you start to understand where you want to get to and what kind of actions you need. And that's what it allows you to do, because it gives you a comprehensive assessment of your water status. It gives you a consensus with all the stakeholders within your department, and it allows you to generate an action plan. And water body scorecard is also targeted at city planners as well as NGOs as well as citizens who are caring for their water bodies. So they can use the tool, make an assessment, get an idea of where things need to be prioritized. So, you can create a goal of, rejuvenating the lakes, as Professor Venkatesh had indicated, but you want to start here by getting a good idea of the baseline. And that's what it allows you to do. The education campus facility scorecard is engaging your schools, colleges, and universities in your city and getting them to think about what they can do. Just like Professor Tony mentioned, cities can be water supply catchments. Every building facility can become a water supply catchment for itself. And then together it becomes what the city becomes the water supply catchment. So with that idea in mind that every urban facility can contribute, every community of water users can do what they can do within their circle of control and influence. So that's why these scorecards have been built, which the city leaders can really powerfully use it to engage with their local schools, local universities, local residents, and work out what they could be doing. And family water scorecard is the same thing, where at an individual citizen family level, you can engage and understand. So this is basically some thing I wanted to share, and we plan to, we invite you to come and let us know how we could help you with these tools, and we will be willing to do that. So the other thing I wanted to do was to give you a summary of what we have talked about as we are closing the session, and as we move towards what we could be doing next. So what we wanted to do, today's objective was to inspire you, inform you, to see that why the leadership of long-term strategy is important, setting a vision is important, and it cannot be done anyone else other than you as a city leader or elected official. So we encourage you to reflect on this and sign up for the next stage. So this is step 1 of the capacity building program. The step 2 is, if you feel you want to do this, then what we would urge you to do is to sign up to the next step, where we can come and show you in your city, to your planners, how do you engage the citizens to do a water vision for your city. And that is the next step, because if you're ready to do that, we are here to give you the support, and using your own staff and some of our team, we'll bring our team, and with your team, we'll together show you how to do that. So that is our call to action for you, that after this, please reflect on this and write to us that you're interested in signing up for the water visioning workshop that we would like to do with your team, and take the next step. And of course, we will be sharing with you all the material that we have received from the presenters as well as to the participants. And we want to create a community where we are continuously engaging with all of you on an ongoing basis. So, and just to conclude, what the key messages of today's 6 presentations were. Rajiv ji talked very clearly about the fact that DPRs are not the only thing. You have to start with strategy, and the only people who can trigger that is city leaders. So he kind of confirmed that for us. And that's something you want to take away. And then after that, Maansi also identified how city leaders have to be more vocal about wanting to build a capacity for doing these local plans. But then unless you take the first step, once you take the first step of engaging the citizen to start the visioning process, you build more license to ask the state, the center. So that's what we urge you to do. That was a takeaway from Mansi's talk. And then Akhila and her team, after that was Professor Venkatesh. Venkatesh presented a great example of, and he said, we didn't even have any funds. It was purely using the team from the different departments, because it is within every department's brief to do certain parts of the water body rejuvenation. All they did was to bring everyone together with the citizens, and then you can do it. And they're very inspiring. So the idea is to start small, with using Professor Tony and Peter's inspiration to say, let's start small with small demonstration. Pick some project which you are already seeking to do, but how can you do it better, engaging the community? And Akhila's and her team's presentation basically showed a very solid and real example of engaging people, which everyone tells us that how complicated it is, cannot be done. They proved it wrong by showing not in one city, but in 2 cities, that 2 very populated, dense cities, how you can engage and empower the community to actually take that forward. So how exciting that can be, that we need to do this. If your mental block is saying it cannot be done, please think again, and we are here to show you that it can be done. And of course, lastly, we concluded with Peter and Tony's presentations, where Tony showed us how cities are actually water supply catchments. You are not making the most of your leadership if you are leaving a legacy of a water-stressed city. So think about it. Your legacy needs to be about water secure and green and cooler city. And that's what we urge you to do. And that's the key takeaway, I would say, from today's masterclass. And I now hand over to Shree to give us yes, Aman.
But it is still after your session we had a little 2 questions.
Okay. Sorry, I thought so, yes. No problem.
Just a quick 2 questions to take a little feedback from the participants. So I'll just share quickly.
Yeah. Is it on the chat?
No, I'm just sharing on Menti. Yeah. Is it
Oh.
visible?
Oh, you mean, okay, you're interactable. No problem. We can do that. So I thought there was a question from the session. That's fine. We can finish the 2 questions you had to ask participants.
So there are only 2 questions. If they can quickly log in to, right, with the same code and... So would you be willing to lead your city in developing a river lake water management plan? So a simple yes and no.
That's really encouraging.
Yes, that's very encouraging. Yes, indeed. So if you could receive any technical support in any of one area which is mentioned below, what would you choose? Is it the city-wide strategic water planning, or citizen engagement, or NBS, the nature-based solutions, financing and investment strategies, or digital tool? All right.
Okay, as people are answering here, I would like to make a comment, Aman, about this, because when you look at these 5 options, yes, of course, everyone wants solutions, right? So it's a given. But what I need all of you to think about is that the solutions can only come when you have set the vision and you've shared that vision with as many stakeholders as you can, and that really activates all the stakeholders to come and help. And no help comes unless you are making clear you engage with the citizen and show what the citizens want. It's not what you as an individual want, but how the citizens are asking for this. This is our vision. These are our goals. These are our targets. And then when you go to the stakeholders, everything is different. It's magic. And I would really, because I did not share one presentation which I was going to about my experience of how I got City of Sydney to develop a master plan for water, even though City of Sydney doesn't have to do it. It is the Sydney Water's water plan. But then they wanted to show what's possible at a local level and how we did it. And once they showed their vision, it was basically a document showing this is our vision, this is our target, and this is how we want to do it. It's just a plan. But that process of planning, so much people gathered and created it that Sydney Water funded it. State government funded it. Central government funded it. So asking for solutions and money comes last. It will happen. But first, what you can do within your control and influence is make a vision, make a plan, set a goal, set a target, and we can show you how to do that. So that's your role, and then everything else will follow. So that's what I would say.
Even adding to what you are saying, Bhakti ji.
Yes.
So even we also have one city, Ayodhya.
Yes.
They were also doing the same kind of thing. What they did is they did a strategic planning.
Yes.
Then based on that, they selected some of the projects, and then they go back. They prepare a proposal, and then they go back to the state government.
Absolutely.
So
because that really, exactly. And what Maansi did not cover in her, and we will share as we engage more, organize more webinars, there are funds that are going back by the Amrit program because cities don't have a plan. And here's your opportunity to show what you want with a proper planning and engagement of the citizens. And money is there. Money is not the block. It is the vision is the block. The road, the strategy, lack of strategy is the block.
So I would really encourage the participants who are there, if they just switch on their camera and we can have a click.
That will be good.
Yeah. Also, if they have any question or anything they want to add to our conversation, their experience, whatever they want to speak of, please, we really welcome. We are here for you. We are here to hear you. So.
And I will share the feedback form on the chat, which we can kindly please fill that before we close the session. And we are yet to do a vote of thanks. So prior to that, I would like to make sure that feedback form is shared on I'm going to share it on the chat link. And then
good afternoon, everyone. Am I allowed to speak?
Yes, please.
Yes, please.
I'm extremely sorry. I'm having a bad throat. I'm thankful to SPG for organizing this class. It was very informative. I'm from Kashmir. So as far the city planning and water resources and other things are have been discussed here, it was great and inspiring hearing everyone. I would like to speak in Hindi or Urdu so that कि मेरी वो दिल की बात बाहर आ जाए. यहाँ पे बहुत सारी बातें हुई, एसबीएम की हुई, एसटीपी की हुई, अमृत की हुई, डीपीआरस की हुई, फाइनेंस की हुई, ये क्या कहते हैं इसको, मास्टर प्लान्स की हुई, फंडिंग, द रिलेशनशिप बिटवीन पीआरआईज एंड the government officials and the bureaucratic system and everything. And so it was overall it was very informative and encouraging and knowledgeable in every aspect. But जब बात होती है इम्प्लीमेंटेशन की या स्कीम्स की बनाने की और इम्प्लीमेंटेशन, देयर इज अ वास्ट गैप बिटवीन दैट. अगर हम पहले बात करेंगे एसबीएम स्वच्छ भारत मिशन की, द फर्स्ट क्वेश्चन आई वांट टू रेज, क्या ये सक्सेसफुल है? इसका एंड रिजल्ट क्या है? Disaster to the water bodies. Hardly in all urban areas, I think 2 or 3% urban areas are having STPs. और उनमें से भी कितने STP fully functional है? और जिस रीजन के लिए STP बनाए जाते हैं, क्या वो फुल्ली वहां पे अर्बन एरियाज में कनेक्टिविटी उनकी है, प्लानिंग है, मैपिंग है?
So are you commenting or are you question? If you once we understand you making a comment or a question, तो उसके हिसाब से हम आपको अपना अगर कोई response अगर चाहिए तो.
I am commenting also. I am questioning also. If you are thinking that SBM2 के बाद open deficit free हो गया India, तो my side is the biggest no.
Okay, ठीक है.
For my area, there were 2 schemes in SBM.
Yes.
Because I as a mayor know that कि एक था इंसेंट्री, एक था वो फुली जो वाटर होता है, ये टॉयलेट्स होते हैं जिनमें सेप्टिक वगैरह भी होता है. तो ओपन डेफिसिट फ्री जब हम करते हैं तो वो जो ड्रेनेज में जाता है, जिनके पास जगह नहीं होती है, तो वहां वो कहाँ पे एट द एंड रिजल्ट हमारा कहाँ पे होता है? तो जो आज का हमारा टॉपिक का मिशन है.
जी बिल्कुल. सो थैंक यू फॉर आस्किंग. अच्छा कि आपने आपकी जो, क्योंकि हमें चैलेंजेस सुनने हैं, हमको पता है चैलेंजेस, तो चैलेंजेस की कोई कमी नहीं है, वो हम जानते हैं. और आपने स्पेसिफिक एक एग्जांपल देके बहुत अच्छा किया. तो इसकी
अगर हम अब मैं वन बाय वन आऊंगी सो दैट कि जो मैंने अंडरस्टैंड किया, जो मैं अंडरस्टैंड कर पाई हूँ. और दूसरा हमने एसटीपी किया, सीवेज ट्रीटमेंट प्लांट.
जी, so I can you let us know when you're finished with your comment and then we will respond.
Yes.
You're done? Okay.
I am sharing my experiences, comments as well as questions also. STP अगर हम सीवेज ट्रीटमेंट प्लांट का सक्सेस रेट क्या है, उनकी कनेक्टिविटी क्या है, उनकी प्लानिंग कैसे हो रही है, क्या हम उन मॉडर्न सिटीज की बात करके हम एसटीपीज का नजर में रख रहे हैं, या हम अभी भी एक रूरल अर्बन एरिया है।
हाँ, तो बिल्कुल आपकी प्रॉब्लम हम समझ गए हैं। तो अब क्योंकि समय की इन द इंटरेस्ट ऑफ टाइम आपकी प्रॉब्लम हम समझ चुके हैं, तो हम अपना जवाब आपको दें, आपको कुछ बताएं।
Just one important issue which I am facing from last 3-4 years, that is Amrut 2.0.
जी, तो बताइए क्या फेस कर रहे हैं?
अमृत 2.0 जी।
हाँ, उसमें
मेरा जैसे इन्होंने कहा कि लैप्स हो गए फंड्स, फलाना चीज हो गए, डिमांड नहीं कर रहे हैं, बाकी चीजें। फॉर माय एरिया द 10 CR वाज रिलीज्ड, approved, my project is approved, but tendering में difficulty हो रही है because it is a 74 crore rupee project.
जी.
So I have approached my government with my PRIs, with my elected representatives so many times that the issue is कि उसमें single tendering हो रही है, और दूसरी बात उसमें single tendering इसलिए हो रही है कि nobody wants to participate for such a big amount, because earlier I said कि we have a urban rural area. Urban तो है लेकिन अभी भी हम गांव देहात के आसपास
बिल्कुल पेरी अर्बन है, अभी सेमी अर्बन।
हाँ, तो उसमें क्या है कि अगर वो इलेक्ट्रिकल, मैकेनिकल और जो 3 पार्ट्स होते हैं उसमें अलग अलग अगर वो टेंडरिंग होती तो मे बी पार्ट्स में हर कोई पार्टिसिपेट कर लेता। फ्रॉम लास्ट 3 years कोई पार्टिसिपेशन नहीं हो रही है, तो जब पार्टिसिपेशन नहीं हो रही है, आई एम नॉट एबल टू ये 10 करोड़ स्पेंड करने में, तो हाउ विल आई डिमांड मोर मनी?
बिल्कुल बिल्कुल।
तो पहली बात
I just want to check. Sorry, how do I pronounce your name? मसरत जी, आप मेयर हैं, आपकी क्या पोजीशन है? जस्ट जानना चाहती हूँ।
मैं मेयर थी अपने एरिया की, एंड यहाँ पे 2024 में इलेक्शंस नहीं हुए मेयर के कश्मीर में।
अच्छा।
सो आई एम द लास्ट, मतलब मेरे बाद कोई इलेक्शन हुआ नहीं।
जी, अच्छा, ठीक है। तो Aman, I will let me just give one and then you can add to that if that's okay. Okay.
I have so many questions because मैंने पूरा आपका सेशन सुना। मैंने ये दूसरा एक और चीज मैं ऐड करना चाहती हूँ कि जब हम हमारे एरिया की बात करेंगे, हमारे पास लैंड की कमी नहीं होती। जब हम बिल्डिंग परमिशंस देते हैं, हम सिर्फ कंस्ट्रक्शन ऑफ द हाउस और कंस्ट्रक्शन ऑफ द कमर्शियल बिल्डिंग दे, अगर उसमें हम तब तक वैट नहीं करते प्लान, जब तक उनका सीवेज ट्रीटमेंट प्लांट या जो वाटर सेवेज हम कर सकते हैं या किचन वाटर जो हम सेव करके यूटिलाइज कर सकते थे, वो भी उस प्लान का पार्ट होना चाहिए था। उससे हम जो वाटर पोल्यूशन है बहुत हद तक मतलब रेक्टिफाई कर सकते हैं। और अपनी जो प्लानिंग है स्टेट प्लानिंग में, मैंने ओवरऑल देखा है कि स्टेट प्लानिंग में क्या होता है, हम हेल्थ सेक्टर, एजुकेशन सेक्टर या बाकी चीजों में हर एक में बहुत एक बड़ा चंक ऑफ मनी रखते हैं, लेकिन वाटर बीइंग द, वो कह रहे हैं ना, जिंदगी इंसान की द मॉर्निंग स्टार्ट्स विद वाटर, उसके लिए हमने रखा होता है 1%। आई हैव रिसेंटली, वो मेरे टाइम में ही अप्रूव हो गए थे वाटर ATMs करके, सो दैट रिड्यूस द प्लास्टिक। वहाँ पे इंस्टेड ऑफ यूजिंग बॉटल्स, वन हैज टू ड्रॉप a 1 rupee coin and he can get 3 ml this filtered water। तो ऐसी चीजें, इनिशिएटिव्स लेके हम बहुत सारी चीजें कर सकते हैं, लेकिन द थिंग इज की प्रॉपर मैनेजमेंट। और ये जो बहुत एक अच्छी चीज आपने बोला कि एक वो जो केमिस्ट्री नहीं बन पाती है बिटवीन द इलेक्टेड बॉडी एंड द ब्यूरोक्रेटिक सेटअप। थैंक यू वेरी मच। आई थिंक इस टाइम बहुत टाइम हो गया क्योंकि मैं बहुत टाइम से टाइम मांग, बेस्ट रहता अगर हम 1-to-1 सेशन के बाद ही क्वेश्चन ले लेते।
नहीं, कोई बात नहीं, क्योंकि हम स्पीकर्स का टाइम उनका लिमिटेड रहता है, तो इसलिए हमको ये बंदिश थी कि हम आपसे। तो पहली बात तो आपने ये सब शेयर करके अच्छा किया। आपको थोड़ा सा मैं एक कॉन्टेक्स्ट देना चाहती हूँ कि हम लोग जो 3 संस्थाओं ने मिलकर ये जो ऑर्गेनाइज किया है मास्टर प्लान, ये हम अभी किसी भी सरकार से जुड़े नहीं हैं। ये बहुत अच्छी बात है। अच्छी बात है क्यों? क्योंकि हम स्वतंत्र हैं, हम सब राय लेने के लिए फ्री हैं। जब हम कोई थ्रू एजेंसी आते हैं तो हम टाइड अप रहते हैं, हम वही बोल सकते हैं जो संस्था ने हमें बताया। लेकिन हम जो हैं यहाँ इसलिए हम जुड़े हैं कि हमारी इच्छा है कि लीडर से डायरेक्ट हम संबंध जोड़ें और हम डायरेक्टली उनको बताएं कि आपकी जो चैलेंजेस हैं उसका कारण, उसी के लिए हम ये मास्टर क्लास किया है। आपने जो चैलेंजेस बताए वो हमें अच्छी तरह पता है, और हमको ये लगता है एज एनजीओज एंड जो सर्विस प्रोवाइडर जैसे एसपीजी सबको आप लोगों को ट्रेनिंग दे रहे हैं। क्यों दे रहे हैं? क्योंकि वो एक इंडिपेंडेंट होके दे रहे हैं, उनको कोई ना फंडिंग मिली है गवर्नमेंट से, और वो स्वतंत्र रूप से क्यों दे पा रहे हैं? क्योंकि ये बहुत जरूरी है कि हम अपने सिटी के लीडर्स को ये बताएं कि एक्चुअली आप में जो पावर है उसको धीरे धीरे समझिए, जानिए। यू डोंट हैव टू बेग, you will, if you do your right stuff, and so much can be done, तो आपको अपने आप, वो लोग अल्टीमेटली वोट बैंक किससे बनता है? बॉटम अप से बनता है। तो अगर आप ये समझ में आ गया कि आप में जो पावर है उसको आप यूज नहीं कर रहे हैं, तो आप यूज करने लगेंगे, उसके बाद उसका इफेक्ट दूसरा होगा, पलट जाएगा पास। क्योंकि अभी क्या हो रहा है, ज्यादातर मेयर्स आपके जैसे स्ट्रगल कर रहे हैं कि वी आर नॉट गेटिंग मनी, you're not getting their attention, you're not getting their solutions. So we would like you to start from scratch, from the bottom, from the citizen engagement at a small scale. Start small, but it will happen. And that is the whole purpose of this is just a starting step. We will hold those who are interested, we will sit with them and show them how to do it. So we are here, this session was just to inspire you that please understand your power and change the game, because this is not required. No cities leaders have to play this type of game, but when you understand your power, only you can play it, and that is what we are to communicate. So now I'll hand over to Amanjot.
Thank you very much, ma'am. It was very encouraging. But the thing is, दूसरी चीज भी है, जिनको पावर पता है, 74th Amendment Act पता है, इम्प्लीमेंटेशन कितना हुआ है, कितने इदारे हमारे, मगर लोग हायर अप्स में एक्सेप्ट करने को तैयार नहीं। आई नो व्हाट आई कैन डू, व्हाट माय अथॉरिटी इज, बट द थिंग इज कि दे आर नॉट रेडी कि हाँ इनके पास इतने पावर्स कैसे हैं।
हाँ, पर उसका जो हम तरीका आपको बताएंगे, इंक्लूसिविटी, एविडेंस बेस्ड, एक सिस्टमैटिक तरीके से भी आप करके देखिए। अपने तरीके से किया, नहीं सफल हुआ, तो कुछ और नया करके सीखिए और देखिए क्या कर सकते हैं। तो इस तरह से हमें इम्प्रूव करना है, बट आप सही रास्ते पे हैं। You are in the right track. That's what I want to say. And you have that passion and the drive. Keep that up and know that it is possible, but you just need to not give up, because you need to be open to learning new things as well, new ways, new approaches, if your approach has not given you the result. Okay? So I think I'm very mindful of the time. और हमसे आप अलग से भी SPG आपसे जुड़े हुए हैं, हम अलग से ऑफलाइन भी एक अलग सेशन कर सकते हैं आपके लिए. So let's not.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
So Aman, I will let you add anything, and then we invite Shree to close the session.
Yeah, actually, just to answer what Nusrat said, ना, that's वो बहुत ही pinpoint जो इन चीजों पे एक तो जो बात कर रहे हैं ना, that if it's okay to talk in English or Hindi, because there are some people who don't understand it, right?
Fine with me, absolutely fine with me. Thank you.
One problem which he rightly indicated, the problem with capacities.
Yes.
Right? Lack in capacities of the human resources that are there. That's why the one challenge what she indicated. Second thing, whatever is coming on paper is not actually translated on ground. So the results, so our agencies and SPG and the Jal Smruti and UAC also are especially is focused on, so like SPG is giving you a capacity, they're increasing your awareness of the certain topics. Jal Smruti and UAC organization like us, we work at the grassroots level, we work with the cities, the officials, and we try to give the hand-holding practices for that, what can be done and what you can avoid, or within a given timeline, what is that which is achievable and which is avoidable.
Yes.
So that's the important thing. I think it's good thing to highlight, and the mayors like Nusrat, I think we need more mayors like her who are very passionate about this topic and who can actually take this forward, because they have a good connection. If they have a passion, they have a good connection, they are at position, nothing can stop them.
Absolutely. Well said.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. The main problem in my area is वो कहते हैं ना कि water everywhere, not a drop to drink.
Yes. No,
my
it is
area
true.
is 16-gallon water deficit right now. And Kashmir, place like Kashmir have water deficit. It's very worrisome.
Absolutely. No, बिल्कुल हम जानते हैं आपकी व्यथा, आपका दर्द समझते हैं, इसीलिए हम ये कर रहे हैं ये काम। तो हम तीनों संस्थाएं इसके लिए पूरी कमिटेड है। तो आप we'll take the next step. So that is only because we कितना प्रॉब्लम्स के बारे में बात करेंगे, अब हम सॉल्यूशन पे आगे बढ़ते हैं। That is the only way. So shall we now hand over to Shree is that all right? So thank you. So Shree, please, over to you.
Thank you, everyone. I think today's conversation have shown us that building water secure, livable cities is extremely essential to the country's future. We may talk about rejuvenation, inclusive services, strategic water sensitive planning, but we also have seen what the power of vision and collaboration can bring about. So I'd like to take this opportunity to thank all the speakers. I think most of them have left, but Dr. Devi and Aman for co-creating this initiative. I think this was a great first step towards looking at collaborating and bringing about transformative change in the space of water. For us at the School of Policy and Governance, from our end, we would like to thank all the participants, especially municipal commissioners and decision makers who took time to join today's conversation. I hope you leave today's masterclass, you're leaving today's masterclass with some renewed inspiration and hope on what are the practical things that we can do. And we'll be happy to support you on your water security journey. Please feel free to reach out to us. The ones who are connected through SPG, feel free to reach out to us. We'd be happy to connect you back to Jal Smruti and experts like Aman and the others who joined us on this conversation. And we look forward to continuously engaging with you all as we move ahead in this year. Thank you so much. And thank you, Dr. Devi and Aman.
And just to make a point, all three of us will be helping you together. This collaboration is just the beginning, and we continue to collaborate on this journey of helping everyone. We are not, at least Jal Smruti is not seeking to do it independently. We want to be working with both your organizations. So we are a team. So please, we are quite a powerful team together. So please reach out.
Thank you. Thank you all. Thank you all so much.
Okay.
See you all.
Thank you.